It was time for Toronto to drown in the sweet sorrow of the crash at Dreamhaven!
G'day mates, how's it going? I'm back. Just need to fix this. What's going on with Kick? You okay, Kick? Okay. Kick's okay. I fixed it, I think. Question mark? Yeah, Dublin, how's it going? One more day? What, until your band's over? Maybe they should extend it another week. I don't know if you've learnt your lesson. This one. Boom. Oh, where is it? There it is. Look at that. Bro, I set up the stream and then at the last minute, I was like, wait, which game is this on? I'd completely forgot which game it was on. Hold up. I'm gonna message Benny real quick. This is the music for the Pokémon Sword start thing? What? Why does this feel like a Lola? Kinda feels like a Lola. Is my thing really quiet? Yeah, a little bit. Okay, there we go. I turned it up. The AI. Who's AI? Your AI? Am I AI? Who's AI? Talking about Benny? Benny's not AI. If he was AI, he would have watched the Digimon streams. He wouldn't have cared about being spoiled. Okay. Oh my god. Holy crap, bro. Yeah, maybe I shouldn't have turned that up. Bro, that's so loud. Holy crap. Bro, Reggie's scream is so loud. What's he mad at? Yeah, I decided to do some Reggie because we haven't done him in a while. Okay. That's annoying. Hopefully it works now. Nope. Jesus. 2 people watching is crazy. Why is that crazy? That's average for me. What are you talking about? It's only every now and then when I get like a lot of people watching. Never mind. Okay, fair enough. You do you, buddy. Bro, the Digimon streams went weird. Like, no one was watching Digimon, and then the last stream is, I think it's got like 60 views now. It makes no sense to me. Like, you guys don't want to watch Digimon, but then you do want to watch Digimon? I don't know. If it was up to me, I'd still be playing Digimon right now. Because I'm trying to get the trophies, the Platinum Trophy. And there's only 1 trophy I need left. Well, technically 2, but like, I say 1 because when you get the last one, it pops the Platinum Trophy anyway. But I gotta finish it on New Game Plus. And it's actually been quite difficult. I'm like stuck on Paramon at the moment. I used to think shinies were worthless. Well, technically they are. Because, like, they don't get boosted stats, they don't get special attacks, they don't get anything. They just change color. So, they kind of are worthless. Hey, no. You're a good dog. Don't be a bad dog. The dogs across the road bark at everything. You don't bark at everything. Yeah, exactly. You get it. Well, I'm not gonna pat you. You just did something bad. I'm not patting you. Bugger off. Don't lick me. Yuck. I'm all gross. Can't believe you licked me. Rot. Yeah, I'm stuck on Paramount, and it looks like I'm gonna have to literally just like make teams for each boss fight now in that game. Because I have level 99s, they have all maxed out stats, and he just like two-shots them. So, I'm gonna have to use my brain. I don't like doing that. But I think I have a good idea which Digimon would be good. I think Mirage Gagamon, because he's data, which is good against Vaccine. And then I think he's not weak to lightning, which is what the Paramon is doing. I think he might be decent. But yeah, getting that platinum trophy is gonna take a lot longer than I thought it would. Is that a silverfish? Hello? Wait, what? Give me a minute. It was a silverfish. It's just silverfish crawling on my wall. Lol? What are you lolling about? You want something doubled? Wouldn't surprise me. Bro, I didn't realize how slow the Reggie hunt was going to be. I thought it was just going to be like quick checks, but I have to like activate this thing every time. And well, we're gonna know immediately because he's like blue. I'm gonna use my switch until PVZ. What? Replanted or Legends Czar comes out? What the hell's PVZ? Oh, Plants vs Zombies. Took me a minute. Yeah, well, Czar comes out in three days, I think. It's taunting me too. Every time I turn my switch on, it's like, it's right there, and you click on it because you're like, why is this sitting there? And it's like, would you like us to check to see if you can play this game? It's damn it, no, don't check. Just let me play it. $4 actually? No, I live in the future. It's the 13th for me. It comes out on the 16th, so 3 days. And all my emails they've sent me, because I pre-ordered it, it says 16th. So... maybe that's why people thought it was weird that I was playing Digimon. Because I'm in the future. But I still kind of want to play Digimon though. I'm obsessed with that game. That game's so fun. Me. Oh, look at Surfetched. Just hanging out. Blue? It's not blue. Sag. Very Sag. Bro, I have too many games going at the moment. Like, this is on my old Switch on a second profile called Nuzlocke that I play Nuzlocks on. So we're not on the Switch 2 today, we're on the Switch 1. But then on the Switch 2, I also have Nuzlocke on a Nuzlocke profile, along with my main profile. I just have too many. I will swear a word at you. Why? Because I get to play things a little earlier? Because I'm in the future? Sucks to suck. Maybe you should go to the future as well. Maybe. Sucks to suck, bro. It's just how it is. Or if you lived in Japan, you'd probably get it like even earlier, because I think they're a couple of hours ahead from Australia. The 16th for them is even a couple hours earlier. Blue? Nope. You're very yellow. Not enough blue. That's not what I'm talking about. What are you talking about? Okay. Dublin, are you okay? You know what you remind me of? Hold on. I'll get it up. Yeah, you remind me of this. Where is it? This one? Hey, you remind me of this.
Crack right now. Crack kids at it again, go!
That's what you remind me of at the moment. Yeah. Should we react to stuff? Has Benny sent me? I asked him if he has any vids. He didn't get back to me. Okay. Let's go. Let's see what's on the main thing. Oh yeah, that's Cinder crap, bro. Oh my god. I've been like watching that all weekend on my days off, bro. It's been like full days of just listening to people try and read the 1,000-page document. It's insane. Why do you need 1,000 pages? Wait, what? Pokemon Legends Czar full Pokedex leaked. Okay. I don't want to watch that. I don't care. I'll figure that out when I play the game. Oh, wait, you know what? We can react to? I've been holding off on it. Oh, she's leaving America. Oh, okay. Oh, there's two. There's two now. Because I didn't react to it.
A chill settles.
Okay. Boom. The most infamous killer in history, Ed Gein. Ed Gein, right? So you say it? Call me Chris, bro.
Over the farmlands of central Wisconsin. It's a kind of place where life moves slowly, where neighbors
you want to
nod
hear her voice
politely
more
on
than
the
mine?
street, and where secrets are thought to be small, ordinary things. But behind the
Not gonna lie, this
doors
is very
of
loud.
one weather-worn farmhouse, a darkness was festering.
Turn
A
down a
man
little
who
bit.
seemed quiet, even harmless, carried with him obsessions too grotesque for the imagination. And when the truth finally
The
surfaced,
chill
it
settled.
shocked not only a town, but the entire nation.
I paused it so I could
Crime,
like
conspiracy,
set it up properly.
cults, serial killers, and murder.
Why am I playing the
All
news?
things
This
I
isn't
love
the
to
news,
consume.
bro.
I know you do too, you sick, twisted, beautiful.
Do you not know who Call Me Chris is, bro? So this is her series, right? Call Me Chris. Can you see it? A little bit? Call Me Chris, right? She has a playlist right here. True crime deep dives. Look at how many she's got. I've watched all of them. I fucking love this series, bro. I've watched all of them. Right? But a hot minute ago when we were reacting to Christian, we finished reacting to Christian, by the way. We're trying to figure out what to react to next. And we decided on serial killer stuff because I watch it a lot. So I did not watch the Ed Gaines thing, or this one, the second one, this new one that's just come out. So now I get to watch it.
Fully intellectually minded.
Why is she
Thought I'd switch it up a
ASMRing
little
me?
bit. But yes, today
I don't like
we are
ASMR.
talking about the infamous
Okay.
Ed
Yeah.
Gein. He's inspired
Gein?
many
I thought it was Gain.
different shows, movies, even music. But who really was Ed Gein? And how did he come to be one
has
of
a
the
weird
most
name.
infamous killers of all time? So without further ado, let's unbuckle our seatbelts, go Mach 5 to the highway, slam on the brakes, and bust through this windshield into this infamous killer together.
Bro, can I just say, like, I don't know if any of you other guys watch Call Me Chris, but like, in like every video she makes, her hair always looks amazing. It's crazy.
At the start of the 20th century, Wisconsin had a strong rural character. Small farming communities dotted the landscape, and life on these farms was hard but simple. Families worked their land, raised
Boom.
livestock, and lived
Blue.
off what they
Do it.
produced. A simple life. The good old days, if you will. And this
Don't-
fostered a
know
strong
it.
sense of self-reliance, but also isolation, as they could be
It's kind of
quite
funny that
remote.
like
And this physical
I made
isolation
my character
meant that
have,
a
like,
family's
soulless
home
eyes.
was its own little world, largely hidden from the outside scrutiny. And the social fabric of rural Wisconsin was tight-knit, yet pretty
wait, what? The complete timeline? The complete Jurassic Park timeline? What? There's a timeline? What? What do you mean? I thought the movies were just in the isn't the movies go in order, right? That's the timeline. Because in the new ones they have the old people, right? And they're old. Do we need a video about this? What? It's just the order that the movies come in. I saw that. I had to like pause for a minute because I was like, that doesn't make sense. What? They were in order.
conservative. And many communities were anchored by churches, modest schools, and maybe a general store in the nearest
Soulless
village.
eyes. Come on.
So traditional values prevailed
Wait, I have
in
to
this
beat this
part
guy
of America. And
to
people
catch
were
him.
expected to be
Can I
industrious,
even beat him?
devout,
No, I should be able to,
and
right?
reserved
Because
in
I have
personal
surf edge.
matters. And mental health,
he's normal
as we
type.
think of it today, was
Yeah, I should
not
be able to shit
openly
on him.
discussed. Basically at all, because at the time, there was a strong stigma around psychological troubles, and those suffering from severe mental illness might be sent to distant asylums, but more often families just coped in private silence.
Do I have a
In
heavy
fact,
ball?
the early 1900s were a low point in public attitudes toward mental illness. And in Wisconsin
Wait.
and elsewhere, society's approach was often to hide away or
What am I doing?
ignore those deemed,
I'm on
quote,
drugs or something.
unstable, unquote. And
don't
emotional
have a heavy ball.
issues or strange behavior within a family were usually
Sag.
kept behind closed doors. And
Where
family
do we
life
catch
in
him
these
in,
farming
if
communities
we get
was
him?
frequently authoritarian, and
I mean, Volt
fathers
looks
were
cool.
traditionally the heads of the household, but mothers too could wield fierce influence over
don't
the
mind the level ball.
children's
The level ball
upbringing.
looks cool,
And
too.
strict discipline was seen as
Okay.
a virtue.
Are these shiny?
Parents would teach obedience and morality as they
Are you
understood
shiny?
it, and
Wait, how do I tell
sometimes
if they're
with
shiny?
an iron hand, if you know what
Okay.
I mean.
So it's like next to the
And
little
religious
thing. Okay, so you're
fundamentalism
not
was
shiny.
common, especially among immigrant
Okay,
communities.
these aren't shiny.
And sermons about sin and virtue
are shiny.
filled Sunday
Wait.
mornings, and many households carried
I don't remember getting you. What? Where did we get him? I remember getting you. I hate you. With a fiery passion of a million suns. When did we get Draco? I don't remember getting Reggie Draco. Like, at all. Wait, is there like a date on here? The Dragon's Maul. Powers of Dragon type moves. Not bad. Wait. Got a boosted special attack. Wait, is blue? No, red. Wait, no, I don't remember anymore. It's been a hot minute since I played this game. Wait. What? It's doing the thing where it flips the dates. I was like, what? There's no 17th month. What the fuck are you talking about? It's the 17th of the 4th. I don't know. Why wouldn't you go day, month, year? That makes way more fucking sense than month, day, year. So stupid. So dumb. So it's fucking April. Right? April last year. Huh. Interesting. Okay. Wait, that means that once I get Reggie, I then have to restart this game and get all the way to here again so I can get Reggie Alecki. Because that's the last one I need. Oh, I just noticed that when he jumps, his little footsies turn into a lightning bolt. That's kind of cool. I never noticed that. Look at it. Meow, 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 meow. That's cool. He's shiny, just get the blue goes white, right? I think. Okay, these dudes need to go to fucking Pokemon Home. Instead of being in here. Wasting away. And making me think that I don't have... Because I think I unmarked him, because I was like, I don't have him. But I do have him, he's just in this game. I have an issue with, like... Oh, there we go. I was gonna say, how do I look at the... Yeah. I have an issue with, like, forgetting which games my shinies are in. Like, I do that a lot. Oh man, Miss Man. Okay. Wait, how does... I haven't played this game in ages. How does this work? If I beat him in this dungeon... Wait, what? Okay, whatever. If I beat him in this dungeon... Does that... Oh, that's why I have them in the party. Because I need them to... Okay. Never mind. Dragon Killer? What is his name? No, I decided on a naming theme, and I think I'm gonna call the Reggie Alecki Zap Man or something. Because we have Mudman, Metal Man, Myth Man, Melt Man, and then we have this guy's gonna be Mega Man, right?
those fiery
Because he's the Mega Man. And that's how they hit. That's how I'm like naming them. That's my naming theme. Is that right? Hey. No. Come here. Come here. Come here and tell me. Come on. No. 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 Someone's walking their dog. And she can hear their, what do you call it? Collar? What the hell's it? Dog tag? Like jingle? That's what she's growling at. That and keys. She hates them. I don't know why. She barks at them all the time.
Teachings into everyday life. So in this environment, a domineering parent who imposed rigid moral codes on their family wouldn't have been seen as particularly unusual.
I need to know. I need to know because I don't remember. And I feel like I would remember getting him because I remember getting fucking the ice bitch. I remember getting him. I don't remember getting Reggie Draco. Okay, well, there's Meltman. There's Meltman. Yeah, because they needed to catch him to then get to him, I think. Wait, they were already on... Wait, it took me one stream? Hold on. Okay, I've already... Fighting. I'm gonna wait for that. Are they? There they are. Wait, what? Are you shitting me? I caught him on 68 encounters? G'day, Pikachu fan. How's it going? Who's Simon? Feels weird hearing my voice. Simon is... I don't think I like this. To be my new son. Here we go. Go forward. Is it good, dude? By the sounds of it, she cooks delicious food a lot. Wait, hold on a minute. Oh, fuck off. What? That is shiny. Like, where did you hear me? I didn't believe it because it's only been 68 encounters. That's crazy. Huh. Don't remember this. Can't believe I got it in such little encounters. What? Interesting.
Outsiders
okay.
generally didn't interfere in family
Hold on, I want to
matters,
test something. Can I
even
kill
if
you?
things were dysfunctional behind the scenes.
Wait, I can Dynamax.
So within this rural
And then what if I do
background
this?
lies the tiny village of Plainfield, Wisconsin. And in the early
Let's see
1900s,
how much it takes to
Plainfield
kill
was
this guy.
a speck on the map of central Wisconsin, surrounded by wetlands and farms. And the population in 1900 was only around 728
duck.
people, peaking at the time and
Get him,
then
duck.
declining in subsequent
Get him,
decades,
Kenpachi.
down to about 580 people by 1920. But it was the kind of place where everyone truly knew everyone, and daily life revolved around basic commerce and farming.
Oh, okay.
And a
Never mind.
handful of family-run businesses lined
this.
Main Street, serving the needs of local farm families.
That's crazy.
And an old opera house built in 1902 doubled as a dance hall, church, bar, and even a movie theater over the years, illustrating how one building often wore many hats in a small
It's only
community.
me.
And Wisconsin was becoming America's dairyland around
There's no
this
other
time,
people in
and there
here.
was
What?
a practical,
That's not how this works.
no-frills ethos
Is it?
among the townsfolk.
Okay,
People
so it takes
worked
two of
hard
those
during
and
the
he's
day
dead.
and
That's
looked
really
out for
funny.
their neighbors when they could. Yet
Okay.
despite
Wait,
the
why is it only
friendliness
me?
on the surface, Plainfield's remoteness fostered a mind-your-own-business mentality. And if a family chose to keep to themselves on a farm outside of town,
That's how I
they
am.
would pry.
Just
So
leave
it
me
was
alone, I'll leave
easy
you alone.
for someone to live a fairly reclusive life without drawing much attention. A very important factor for the story to come. But overall, early 20th century Plainfield offered a picture of secluded small-town America.
Oh, man.
Quiet,
I gotta say,
insular, and set in its own ways. And the state...
the Netflix, what would you call it? Because it's not a documentary. Like, movie? Documentary movie? I don't know what they're called. Monster series? Is that what they're calling it? Bro, the dude in it, I can't remember the actor's name. He looks so much like him. It's crazy. Like, he's like almost one for one. I haven't watched it, but like, just seeing like the picture, I was like, holy shit.
A tragedy that would seem utterly inconceivable against such an unassuming rural backdrop. And little did those farmers and shopkeepers know that one of their own would become the stuff of
Bro, this thing
American
keeps
nightmares.
vibrating my remote
So
like
the Geen
crazy.
saga begins with two people who, on the surface, appeared unremarkable for their
not
time,
blue.
and that is George Philip Geen and Augusta Wilhelmine Lurk. So George and Augusta were both
What?
children of German immigrants and were raised
Oh.
in Wisconsin in the late 19th
I
century.
was about to say, I
And
thought this was
George,
America.
born in 1873, grew into
What is
a
that
hefty,
name, bro?
hard-working man, but one beset by personal demons, because he had a reputation for being an alcoholic.
Bro, I can't
And
get
he
over her
drifted
hair.
through various jobs, never able to
Just looks
hold
too
anything
good.
steady for long. And over the years, George worked as a carpenter and even a tannery hand. But his lack of discipline and heavy drinking kept
Tannery
sabotaging
hand?
any chance of success. And he, by all means,
Guess they are
appeared to
called
be
tanneries,
a
aren't
man
they?
who would rather drown his disappointments in whiskey than confront them. And in contrast, Augusta, born in
mean,
1878,
have you tried whiskey?
was George's
pretty
polar
good.
opposite in personality. Because Augusta came from a strict old Lutheran family of Prussian Germans.
Augusta.
And the
Bro, what
old
a
Lutherans were known for their ultra-conservative, fire and brimstone brand of faith. It's God's word or nothing, basically. So from a young
Okay.
age, Augusta was taught that the
What's he
world is
saying?
a wicked place. And not wicked as wicked awesome. Wicked as in, like, evil. Infected with sin in every thought and deed. And this creed became the core of her being. And she developed a formidable, no-nonsense character, and deeply religious, proudly self-righteous, and utterly convinced of her moral superiority.
So, I kind of know what Ed Gein did. Like, he's like Leatherface, right? It's like the inspiration for Leatherface. But like, I don't know anything past that. Did he do weird things to his mother? Is that what we're getting at? Because she's talking about his mother. Like, she's trying to explain, like, it feels like she's trying to set up the reason, like, why she treats her son bad or something. And then that's how he turned into a monster. That's what this is feeling like.
So Augusta was not necessarily warm or affectionate. if
Yeah,
you
this
catch my
is
drift.
definitely how this is.
Instead, she was described as domineering and obsessively pious. And she believed it was her
Yeah.
God-given duty to steer others, especially her family, away from evil, which will become extremely ironic as we make our way through this case. But George and
because
Augusta
her
would
son
marry on
becomes,
December
like,
11th, 1900.
The most evil
And
of
George would be
evil.
27 and Augusta would be 22. And she likely hoped marriage would offer her stability and children to raise in righteousness. And George, for his part, probably saw Augusta as a strong woman who could keep him anchored. And in their early years together, Augusta took charge of the household finances and opened a
I mean,
small
maybe
grocery
he
store
just
in
saw a hole.
La Crosse. And by all accounts, she was the breadwinner, a rather unusual arrangement for 1900. And her
Yeah,
shop did
what?
well enough to support the family when George couldn't, because remember, he's just off drinking and just being shitty at his jobs. And meanwhile, George's pride suffered under the shadow of his wife's competence and open contempt.
I didn't
And
realize the
Augusta
dogs
would
on the background.
openly berate George. Yet, because of her strict Lutheran beliefs about marriage, divorce was unthinkable, could not happen. And
So-
so resentment festered in their home. Very healthy.
So she's
And in
not gonna get a
January
divorce,
1902,
okay.
the Geens welcomed their first child, a son named Henry George Geen. And Augusta had desperately wanted a daughter, someone
not-
she could mold into her own
that's not the
devout
one, though,
image,
right?
an obedient girl safe from the corruption of men. So the birth of a boy was a disappointment to her. Not a great start for this little guy. But still, Augusta was determined to raise Henry right. So she
Wait, why are
quickly
men
established
the one
herself
that-
as
what?
the ultimate authority
Do we
over the
corrupt?
child, essentially sidelining George's role as a father. And those early family years
feel
were
like- is
dominated
the
by Augusta's growing control. And she
Like, how's that work? Their father is just off drinking. He's not even, like, around the kids, so how is that corrupting them? What? Okay, that makes no sense.
preached and scolded, making it clear that sin lurked around
His eyeballs
every
glow.
single corner.
That's cool.
Just molding a extremely paranoid child. And George, increasingly emasculated, drank even more and grew but when inebriated. So domestic life became a kind of tug of
Was
war
that
because there was
abusive?
Augusta's stern
Is that what that
discipline
word was?
on one side and George's drunken outbursts on the other.
I feel like that's what that
hand.
word
so
was.
as the years went by, Augusta's influence only expanded, and on August 27th, 1906, she gave birth to a second son in La Crosse, and that was Edward Theodore Gein, known as
we found
Ed,
him.
the guy we're talking about
Yeah,
today.
we found him.
And this child,
spawned.
too, was not a girl.
He spawned in.
2 strikes, and she's pissed. So, if she couldn't have a daughter, Augusta resolved that her sons would be kept pure at all costs. From the moment Ed was born, Augusta's word was law in the Gein household. Again, not a good start to this little guy's life. So she would tolerate no dissent from George or the boys. Augusta was queen bitch of this house. So a stern, joyless routine was established in this household. And that is that
So,
the children
normally
would attend
when
to their chores.
there's mothers
and
like
Augusta
this
would
with like
attend
serial
to their
killers,
souls, basically. Their
it's kind of
souls that
like
were
the mother's the first one
just
that goes, right?
caked
And
with
they do
evil
weird things
in
to it.
Augusta's opinion. So
Like,
every
look at
afternoon, she
fucking
set
Bates
aside
Motel,
time
right?
to read the Bible to her sons, often selecting fire and brimstone verses from the Old Testament or Revelation about divine punishment and the evils of depravity. Old Testament, if anybody's read it, man, that shit is crazy. All right, I got it read
Yeah,
to
you
me
can
as
say
a
that
kid.
again.
It's the stuff of nightmares. Highly recommend New Testament, little lighter. But she drilled into Henry and little Ed that the world outside
They're both
was
weird though, bro.
filthy and a very immoral place. And in Augusta's eyes, nearly all women
They're definitely
who
the best animes
self-accepted
ever written.
were harlots and instruments of the devil, out to seduce
Zut,
and
zut.
destroy men. So
Why does it say
just a
Zut?
classic boy mom, basically. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding, okay? My sister's a boy mom. She's a great boy mom. I'm kidding. But we all know who I'm talking about, all right? Those moms that just, like, never want their boys to, like, have a girlfriend or a wife or whatever. It's a little weird. Anyway, so drinking
Oh, my
alcohol
mother didn't
was
care.
a damnable
My mother
sin.
couldn't give a shit.
Intercourse was evil, and only total obedience to God and to Augusta as God's emissary could save her family from hellfire. So within this fervent atmosphere, George Gein receded into irrelevance, and Augusta's scorn for her husband was never concealed.
I wonder if this
either.
game's
And
gonna,
like we
like,
said, she openly
crash
berated him as a
die on me.
useless drunk who was headed for hell. Just
'Cause I've
very
noticed that
healthy
the
household.
physical
And just
cartridges don't
powerless
like to be
change
reset
his
like this.
situation, George mostly slunk into the background, nursing his bottle of whiskey. And when he did get involved with the boys, it was
Whiskey.
usually in anger. And he would furiously slap Ed's head, sometimes hitting him until the boy's ears rang, which is horrible. And these beatings only reinforced Ed's fear of
Do you reckon they had
adoration of his
CTE?
mother, because she was the one who claimed to love and protect him
Maybe that's
from
why
a
he went a little
sinful
crazy.
world, whereas his father met his tears with violence. So we're getting a very unhealthy attachment. The umbilical cord is growing stronger between Eddie and Mommy. And though she was also verbally abusive to the boys, believing them to become eventual failures, just
So-
like their father was in her eyes. But
The father too is probably he's probably not just mad that the kids are crying, right? That his sons are crying. He's probably also mad that like at the mother, right? Because she's kind of like babying them and taking their side all the time. So he's probably like jealous in a way, right? And he takes it out on the kid because of that, and that's not really the kid's fault. But I would just say that's probably also the reason why he's taking it out on Ed.
But by the time Ed was a toddler and Henry a young boy, Augusta had effectively constructed an emotional fortress around her family. She was basically a cult leader, and she would even forbade the children from having any friends over, or just friends in general. These kids were extremely secluded. And she just poured her energy
Good old
into
cult
running
leader.
the household and lecturing her sons on morality. And in public, Augusta was outwardly respectable, a hard-working store owner and farm wife. And neighbors in La Crosse might have found her rigid and holier than thou, but nothing about
What was
the
their
Geins'
store
early
selling?
years drew
Did she say
serious
that?
outside
I missed it,
concern. Remember,
probably.
everybody just kind of kept to themselves. And
Why
like,
would they have
"Oh,
a farm?
that's their problem. You know,
Unless
she's
they
a bit
need
crazy,
the
but
farm
you know,
to
she's
sell the
hardworking and
things in their
everything,
store.
So nobody really like turned their heads. Behind closed doors, however, Augusta's fanaticism and George's failure created a very toxic home environment. And when the stresses of city
No.
life and George's drinking grew too much,
think?
Augusta sought a drastic change. You know what I love about
Did she
fall?
get
Those
divorced?
cozy nights when you actually want to turn on the oven and make
that what's
something
happening?
hearty
Wait,
and
what?
warm. And that's exactly
Oh.
why I've been obsessed with
Ad.
HelloFresh
That confused the
lately.
shit out
And
of
they
me.
just
I was like,
dropped their
what?
biggest
The
menu
fuck? What are you
refresh
talking about?
yet. And honestly, it's been
Bro,
a
that
game changer
confused
for
the
my
crap
dinner
out of me.
routine. I personally use HelloFresh, and you should too. But honestly, they've literally doubled
think I
their
can.
menu.
I don't
We're
think it's in
talking
Australia.
100 different options every single week. Last night, for example, I made their Korean-style beef tacos with this incredible gochujang creme. I probably said that wrong.
Korean
and Caleb
tacos?
couldn't believe that I actually cooked it. And the best part is that everything shows up pre-portioned. So I'm not buying a whole bottle of gochujang that'll sit in my fridge forever. And what really got me hooked is how they've stepped up the health game, because they've got these
Yeah, I
high
don't-
protein options now.
You
which
guys
is
can
really
get
important to
HelloFresh.
Caleb and
Do
I,
it.
and
Use her
recipes
link.
with 2 or more servings of veggies built right in. Plus, and this blew my
I
mind,
like-
you
wait,
can
hold
get
on.
steak and seafood recipes every week with no extra charge.
Give me a
So
minute.
3 times more seafood on the menu now, all at the same price. And look, 91% of
Good.
customers say they feel healthier eating with
Get it.
HelloFresh.
Go get it.
And 9 out of 10 say dinner is
Do
straight
it.
up more delicious. And I'm one of them. It's America's #1
Go
choice
do
for
it.
home cooking, and once you try it, you'll get why. But
I can't
seriously,
get it.
the best way to cook just got
I'm pretty certain
better,
it's not
so
in
go
Australia.
to HelloFresh.com/CCCM10FM now to get 10 free meals plus a free item for life. And that's 1 per
Oh, wait,
box
I did
with
the wrong one.
active
God damn it.
subscriptions. That's HelloFresh.com.
Why do you have multiple codes?
CCCM10FM
Lola
to get
blankets?
10 free meals plus a free item
Well,
for
get
life.
that too.
Trust me on this one though, your
God
dinner
damn it.
game is about to level.
Wait, does that
up.
mean there's-
Thank you
wait,
so much
hold
for
on.
Hello.
Does that mean there's another ad? Wait, what? Oh, that's like a transcript. Oh, whoops. I thought it was like... Oh, okay. Normally it like gives you like timestamps. Wait, where's the HelloFresh link? Oh, okay, they don't give you a link. Wait, hold on. I'll get it for you guys. I think this is it. Right here. Here you go. Boom. That other one's for blankets, I think? Get 35% off your entire order at Lola Blankets? What is Lola Blankets? I guess we're going to find out later. Stay tuned.
Fresh for supporting this channel and sponsoring this video. Let's get back to it.
Stay
So it
tuned.
was
We're going to figure
around
out what the blankets are.
1915 She relocated the
At some
family to a
point.
farm on the outskirts of the tiny town of Plainfield. And she deliberately chose
Wait,
this
can I
150
need to say something. I didn't know you could have multiple sponsors in a single video. I didn't know that was a thing. Like, I thought that, like, if someone sponsored your video, they would want to be the only sponsor in your video, right? Wouldn't that make more sense? Than just being like, nah, you can have multiple sponsors. That just feels weird.
55-acre farm for its seclusion, far from any immorality of larger towns. So by removing her family to an isolated patch of rural land, Augusta believed she could shield her sons
Bro, I
from
can't
the
get over
corrupt
the name
influences
Augusta.
once and for all. And indeed, the Gein farm would become a world unto itself, with Augusta, its unquestioned cult ruler, at the head. And George was too beaten down and often just too drunk to protest the move. Plus, he didn't make any money, like Augusta just had all the power in this relationship. Thus, as the Gein family headed into Ed's childhood years,
probably made debt,
Augusta's
though,
grip was
right?
ironclad, and the stage was set for a very
Wonder
peculiar
how much alcohol he's drinking.
upbringing. So Edward, or Ed Gein, spent his earliest years under the absolute authority of his mother, as we know. And the Plainfield farmhouse was old and modest, but Augusta saw it as a sanctuary from the modern world's sins. And for Ed, it became a lonely kingdom of fields and dense silence. And he was rarely allowed to leave the property except for school. And inside the home, Augusta's presence loomed as large as ever. And every day, Ed heard the same fiery sermons
bro,
from
I went
his
to,
mother. The wickedness of the world.
I went with
the
my mother
evils of
out to her
lust, the
friend's house,
certainty
who
of
lives
God's
out in, like,
wrath.
whoop
And she
whoop, right?
punctuated her lectures by
There's
quoting
like nothing out
scripture
there.
on murder,
Um,
death, and divine retribution.
And
you
it was
know,
a school. And I said to my
classic
mother, is that a
nighttime bed
school? And she was
stories.
like, yeah, that's a
But
school.
ironically,
How many kids
foreshadowing
go to
the
that school?
darkness that would
I think
later
there's like 10
unfold,
kids
because
that go to
Ed's
that school.
impressionable
It's
mind
so
absorbed it
it's so random.
all, and he grew up
'Cause
literally
it's just one building. Like it's
idolizing
legit just
Augusta,
one building.
because to him she was
And then at the front it just has like a
practically
big sign
infallible,
that has the
his
school's
guiding
name.
light in a world full
And it
of
says like, yeah, just 10
temptations.
kids go to that
But
school.
Augusta's love was
is
harsh
crazy.
and conditional, you know, as a mother's love is, and she enforced discipline with a heavy hand. And in one especially traumatizing incident, young Ed was caught by his mother doing something a boy does when they hit
He was
puberty,
jacking
if you
it.
know what I mean, in the bathtub. And
Yeah,
Augusta
he was
flew
jerking his gherkin.
into a rage, and she grabbed him
Slapping
by
his peanuts.
you know what, and called them the curse of man, scolding him
What?
that
Okay.
that act was a filthy abomination. And Ed was mortified and learned to associate any normal urge.
When he was jerking the gherkin, so his penis would be erect, and then you grabbed it. Oh, this woman's weird. What? Okay. I'm trying to like imagine what like what would I do if that happened to me? I think I would probably freak out too, actually.
With intense guilt and fear
what?
of his mother's wrath. Again, just very healthy practices going on here, and by that I mean extremely toxic. So the boy's childhood was marked by social isolation and strange influences.
Hold on.
And as a child,
If you don't jerk it, right? Isn't that bad? I think that's bad, right? Is it bad to not jerk off? Some people masturbate often every day, or even more than once a day. What the fuck? Hello? Are you okay? Bro, if you're doing it more than once a day, like every day, like, does your penis have skin on it still? Like, what? Some people masturbate closer to once a week. Mine's more like, I don't know what, every second or third day, maybe. So for me, it's like, do I feel like doing it? That's what it is. I don't just wake up and go, nope, need to do it today. Need to do it at least once every day. Once every few weeks, or even every now and then. Some people never masturbate, and that's fine too. All of these are perfectly normal. Okay, so oh wait, maybe I should say, is it healthy? Healthy is probably the better way of saying it, right? Just give me the same thing. I want to know if it's like unhealthy to not jerk it. What's happening? What? Wait, I don't want your cookies. Leave me alone. Okay, so this says some research suggests that abstaining from ejaculating may increase testosterone. So if he's like not jacking it, like ever, that's probably why he got so aggressive, right? Because his testosterone was going up. Like key role in mental health, for example, research on testosterone replacement therapy shows that the treatment increases mood, energy, and sense of well-being. Can also reduce anger and what? The more testosterone can make it so you're less angry? Then explain steroids. What? People, like a lot of people who take steroids get super aggressive and angry, and you're like, oh no, but if you have more testosterone, you get less angry. What? That makes no sense. I feel like everything we've seen proves the opposite. I don't know if I trust this. Okay.
At around the age of 7, Ed reportedly witnessed his parents slaughter a hog in the farm's shed. And disturbingly, Ed later recounted that watching this violent butchery excited him so much that he experienced an involuntary release, if you know what I mean, which is just not cool to think about, but it happened.
That's a bit
and this
weird.
shocking reaction suggests that even at a young age, Ed's psyche was mixing violence and arousal in a very abnormal way. And whether Augusta ever learned of this incident is unknown, but it shows the seeds of Ed's pathology were quietly taking root
So he
in childhood.
got off on a
And despite his bizarre home
on a
life,
pig
Ed
getting killed.
outwardly appeared as a shy, awkward boy,
But can
not
you
a
not
little boy
lay
who
all over the power cord?
really
That would be
liked
great.
watching animals die a little too much. And as if the kid didn't have it hard enough growing up, a congenital
If the stream
growth
cuts
on
out,
his
it's 'cause the
eyelid
dog is
gave
laying
him a
on
bit
my
of a
power
lazy
cords.
eye, and a lesion on his tongue caused him to speak with a slight lisp. And in 1915, Ed began attending the local
Wait, hold on. What's a legion? A legion? What is that? Legion? How do you spell that? How would you spell legion? Legion? On tongue? Oh, that's how you spell it. Like a cankersaw or... Okay, what are these? Can I have a... I need to look. Oh, it's like a... Oh. I mean, I have this. I have this underneath my tongue. Because one of my teeth is crooked and it points back into my mouth. And it goes under my tongue. Which causes one of, like this, every now and then I get one of these. Where that tooth is pointing. I feel like I talk normal though. Oh my god. This guy's tongue. Ooh. Bro, what? This is gross. This guy's tongue, half this guy's tongue is giant and purple. Oh, whoops. What the fuck does this dude do?
one-room Roche a Cree grade school, which had just 12 students total.
Yeah,
And
that's
this
what I'm
tiny
saying. There's a school
schoolhouse
near.
was essentially his
Apparently,
only
it's
window
like
to the outside
a couple
world.
hours away a bit.
And Ed did fairly well in class. In fact,
Only
he was
has
described
10.
as a voracious reader, but socially he was a misfit. And his classmates would find him odd, because he would sometimes laugh to himself out loud, just kind of out of the blue, as if hearing an inside joke that no one else understood, which, I mean, who doesn't do that? You know, I do that sometimes. And this was likely
probably doing what I do.
coping mechanism, but
I
it
do
earned
this
him
sometimes.
some
I'm just
ridicule.
thinking to
And other
myself.
children would mock him
And I'm thinking
for
about
his weird
things. And
giggling
sometimes the
and
things I'm thinking about are
effeminate
funny.
mannerisms, which
I
only
did this the other day,
isolated him
actually.
further. And being ostracized hurt Ed deeply, but at
I
home
guess people
he
would
got
think I'm crazy
zero
then.
sympathy, as we know. You know, mommy doesn't give a shit. So if Ed ever came home crying because the kids at school bullied him, Augusta and George responded with scorn or even violence. So this kid could
Oh,
not
God.
catch a
Okay.
break. I have sympathy for little
Yeah,
Ed.
Dublin. Welcome
And
back.
Augusta would chastise Ed for wanting friends among sinners, and George would be violent as he usually was. And as a
Enabling
result,
my nose.
Ed had no friends, and Ed learned to swallow his
No,
hurt
no
and withdraw
friends.
further into himself. And his only close companion was his older brother, Henry, who was 5 years his senior. But even that bond was complicated, because Henry sometimes acted as another authority figure. Because as you can imagine,
Yeah, I was about to
Henry's
say,
going through all the
his
same
older brother
stuff,
is probably like
and usually
picking on
kids
him too.
project what is projected onto them, so his only outlet to let out any anger is on Ed, so Ed's just getting it from every side. So lacking any normal
Does she not try and
social
have like a
outlets,
third kid?
Ed immersed himself into books
And get her
his
daughter?
own imagination, and
If
he
she wanted?
particularly loved adventure stories and eventually pulp magazines, which were cheap fiction magazines printed on wood pulp paper. And he would happily spend
But-
time with books over interacting with others. And even in these early years, Augusta's grip on Ed's mind was
So she's like, don't go evil and all this sort of stuff, right? Trying to make him so he's not evil. But then saying like, him having a penis is evil and all this sort of crap. But then she's letting him read magazines? Like, if anything's gonna have anything in it that's like that she would think is evil, it's probably that, right? The world? What do you mean? Oh, Dublin. I off stream. I've been doing my Dragon Warrior build that I decided on, and it's actually going pretty good. I beat Radon. I beat Renala. Renala sucked. I will say that she sucked. She was very hard to beat with just fucking breath attacks. She was kind of annoying, but I beat her. I beat Moog, and then I got into the DLC, and then I beat Dane, and now I have the Kung Fu Fists. I think that's where I left off. It didn't take me too long. I think it took me a couple hours. But the build's doing alright so far. And I'm only using Grello's Raw, Rot, Frost, Fire, the Hand Slam, and then I've got Golden Vow and Flame Grammy Strength. That's what I'm doing. And then now we have the fists. I'm gonna see if I could beat the base game with it. I'm assuming I would be. Moog took a hot minute, I will say that. He did take a hot minute to beat. But I also have trying to remember what his name is. The fucking guy with the fancy pants. I have his pants. And then I'm gonna get Gravekeeper's cloak for my cape. 1, 2, or 3. I've never watched JoJo, so I can't tell you. I choose 4. I know the world scene, and I know the aura scene. Right? Where he's just like punching a whole bunch. Although I think I've seen the scene where the guy gets his crutch stuck to another guy's crutch. Because it's like magnetic or something. Saying that. I've never watched JoJo. I've thought about it a couple times and then... Oh no, I just don't. My Hero's new season came out, right? That new season's gonna go... That's gonna pop off, I think. Because like all the crazy stuff's gonna happen.
So tight that he barely dared to think for himself, because he was conditioned to believe that the outside world was evil and only his mother was
evil.
good. And Ed later said he never
outside world
once
is evil.
dated or had any interest in girls growing
That's
up.
where
because
that's where
Augusta had
women live.
effectively made the
Outside.
idea of romance or any sort of sexuality as terrifying and
We all know
repulsive
girls are
to him.
icky.
And instead, Ed focused on being the dutiful son, helping with farm chores, and trying, often futilely, to earn a kind word from his mother. And Ed's formal education ended almost as soon as it began, because after completing the
Would you
8th
recommend
grade, Ed
JoJo?
would drop out of school. And this was not uncommon for 1920s farm
I've
country
heard
boys,
mixed
because many
things.
boys left school to work on the farm full
A lot of people say
time,
it's
or
good,
because their family
but
saw no need
a
for
couple of
higher
my
education.
friends don't like
And
it.
in Ed's case, he had only ever
So,
attended a tiny rural school,
mainly
and
why
high
I'm
school
like,
was likely
nah,
out
maybe
of the
not.
reach logistically. So by his mid-teens,
Yeah.
Ed was essentially confined to the family farm 24/7.
What other
with
anime
only
do you
occasional
like?
trips into Plainfield for
This might help me
supplies.
figure out
So he continued to read
some
non-stop
things.
on his own, maintaining a decent literacy, but any chance at normal social development was completely cut off. So Ed was truly just devoted to his mommy to an excessive degree. even for that era. And sometime in their early lives, Augusta
My
made her
brothers,
sons
which is
swear an oath
JJK.
to remain virgins until death. That's a big ask, Mom. What do you... Okay, that's a lot.
Hold on. Just JJK? Dragon Ball. Do you mean Dragon Ball or do you mean Dragon Ball Z? Because, like, I've watched Dragon Ball Z onwards. I've never watched Dragon Ball. All of them? Okay. Have you watched Naruto? One Piece? Bleach? I just realized I paused a video at a great time. Look at her face. She looks so happy. How come Nido Queen spawns in sometimes and then it doesn't some other times? Yeah? Okay. And do you like them? The fuck? Bro, that's like the third ant that I've like gotten off me. It's like a flying ant. I have like flying ants in my room somewhere? Oh, you know what? It just rained. Maybe that's what it is. It rained this morning. Maybe that's why the ants are coming out. Yeah? You like them? Okay. There's another one. What the fuck? Where are all these fuckers coming from? What is happening? I don't see them anywhere. They're just like spawning on my legs. And like not on like my feet or anything. They're like spawning like on the top of my leg. My like fucking knee and that. Yeah, I don't see them anywhere. I don't know where the fuck these things are coming from. I'm being attacked. Send help. I'm being invaded by ants. Yeah, I always, the way I say it, right? If you watched Naruto, right? And then you come online and you're like, oh, Naruto's better than One Piece and Bleach by far, or like, you say it's better, but then you've never watched One Piece or Bleach, then you have no right to say it's better, right? You're gonna, like, at least watch the other two as well.
And she warned Henry and Ed that
Like, I've watched
any
all three.
intercourse was a ticket to eternal damnation.
And I'd say they're
losing
all,
their
like,
chastity
even-ish.
would make them no better than their despised father in her eyes. Why does
But,
she
like,
get a pass?
So the one I put at like the top, right, is Naruto. Because it's the one that I started on. It's like what got me into anime pretty much. But on top of that, the way I look at it too is if I was to go back and rewatch one of them, the one I'm going back to rewatch is Naruto. Every time. 1,000 more episodes. What, of Naruto? Like, Bleach might be, like, 1,000 Year Blood War. You could definitely go back and rewatch that, right? But the original, like, Bleach series, you can't go back and rewatch it, right? I feel like it's like, like, watching it once is good, right? And you're like, yeah, this show's great. But you can't go back and rewatch it. Because of, unless you, like, edit it. Because the amount of times I was watching that show, and, like, in the middle of a fight, like, an episode ends, and they're in the middle of a fight, and then the next episode starts, and they're like, hey, we're gonna go do this now. It's like, what happened to the fight? What? Then you watch 20 episodes of them doing this other thing, and then it goes, then the next episode starts, like, that arc, like, ends, right? And the next episode starts, and it's like, hey, we're back to the fight now. It's like, what? Motherfuckers, I've forgotten everything that happened in this fight. Can't just do that. Like, that's like the weirdest shit ever. So, like, that one's hard to go back and rewatch. One Piece? Yeah, One Piece is, like, another one. Like, I can go back and rewatch moments, right? But I can't go back to the start and be like, hey, I'm going to watch One Piece from the start again, all the way through. Because it's just too much. And when you, like, I don't know, when you know things, it's not as good. I guess, I don't know. It's just too many episodes to go back and restart. Whereas Naruto has, like, what, 500? Still a lot, but it's like, I don't know. I think it's just easier to rewatch. I reckon so after they've done the 1,000-Year Blood War for Bleach, if they went back and reanimated from the start up to the 1,000-Year Blood War with like the same animation as the 1,000-Year Blood War, I think Bleach would pop off again. I think people would fall in love with Bleach again, right? Just reanimate it and take away all those parts where it's like in the middle of a fight and then it cuts away to 20 episodes of random garbage and then comes back. Cut all that out. Like, just do it like fucking from start to finish. Because I think they're doing that One Piece, right? They're redoing One Piece, but like without all the filler stuff. Do that with Bleach. Go back and just reanimate and like take out all the random shit, and it would pop off. It's saying that same thing would happen with Naruto too. Like if you went back and reanimated that, because I think it's like episode 80 to like episode 120 of like the first season of Naruto, where it's just filler. It's all filler, and then in Shippuden, it's like all the boat stuff where he gets on a boat to go to the lightning village. That's all filler too. And that's like, I don't know how many episodes that is, but that's a lot.
But incredibly, both boys, likely under coercion by their formidable mother, pledged
I will
to
say
obey.
though, before we continue with Ed Gein, I will say they are more willing now to continue shows. So back when I first started watching anime and that, they would do one season of a show, and if it didn't pop off, like Attack on Titan or something, like if it didn't pop off like that, they wouldn't continue doing it. They would like cancel it. That's why there's so many anime that are actually pretty good that just don't have a second season because they didn't pop off. They still did well, but they didn't like go crazy. So they were like, we don't need a second season. No one was watching it. Whereas like now, they're like, they do a season, and I don't think they pop off either. But they're like, hey, we're gonna do a second season of this, because what was it? There was something that got a second season. Was it the vending machine? It was an isekai. I can't remember which one though. But it's getting a second season, and it blew my mind. I was like, what? Why? Did anyone even watch this fucking thing? I saw it and was like, that's stupid. I never watched it. But they're like giving it a second season. And then the beginning after the end. Like that's a great example actually. The beginning after the end should have been like a knockout of the park, right? If you just animated it like Solo Leveling or JJK or something like that, that show would have went hard. Everyone would have went crazy for it. It would have popped off, right? Because the manhwa's incredible. It's like really good. But they didn't. They barely animated it, and it was just doo-doo. It was so bad. But it's getting a second season. Because it popped up on Twitter. They were talking about it. And I was like, what? When I read it, I was like, there's no way it's getting a second season, right? Everyone shit on it. Everyone complained about the first season. Why would it get a second one? Like, there was a petition to, like, get them to stop the anime as it was airing and reanimate. Go back and reanimate. And then I think there's a new petition that's, like, trying to stop the second season from happening. I have a dog hair in my mouth. It's like that. It's like that. That's blowing my mind. Did these? Is that another ant? What was that? I don't know what that was. Whereas, like, back when I started watching anime, if that had happened, if that show had come out like that, and everyone shit on it like that, there's no way it would have got a second season. Like, no way in hell. I don't know. They're throwing everything at the wall and seeing what sticks.
And Ed took this vow very, very seriously, further contributing to how he
But then
never
they're also
pursued
like,
any
season one
romantic
didn't do well.
relationship
Maybe
in his
season two
life.
will do well.
And
Like,
such was
okay.
Augusta's power over her son's psyche. So by the end of Ed's school years, the family dynamics had settled into a grim routine. Augusta's word was truly law. Henry and Ed labored on the farm under her direction, and George spent most of the time drunk and bitter on the sidelines. So Ed's worldview, having had almost
Sounds like a
no
life.
healthy outside input, was
Being
essentially
drunk
an
and bitter.
extension of Augusta's. He did not think for himself, and he genuinely believed that she taught him that outside their farm lay a world full of sin, that all women, aside from Augusta, of course, were degraded creatures, and that he must remain pure and obedient at all costs. Yet behind Ed's compliance, dark urges and
Wait, hold on.
confusion were bubbling.
Should I read One Piece? The new chapter would have came out today, right? Unless it's still on break. Is it still on break?
Because he
Oh, I didn't mean to do that. Is it still on break? No, it's not. Okay. Should we read it? I can't show you guys, but I'll read it. Real quick. I mean, I'll just scan through it. I'm not gonna like actually read it because I'll read it later. Okay, Rayleigh's running away. Wait, what's the fruit? Oh, that's the dragon one, right? Yeah. And then Kuma ate his fruit. There's Garp. Wait, Rox is carrying... He's carrying his wife? Of course, you get like that butt shot of his wife, which is kind of funny. Wait, she like jumped off of... She like jumped off of his arm. Oh, he's gonna fight Garling. Okay. Wait, did he split the mountain in half? I think he split the mountain in half. Oh my god, bro, what the Kaido just fucking slugged the shit out of Big Mom. What the shit? And then he ate her fruit. That's actually kind of funny. Wait, didn't she say she gave it to him? He just stole it. What? Dragon. Running away with baby Shanks, little baby Shanks. Okay. Oh, Kuma's like teleporting people away. Okay. Okay, so they're doing the Dommy reversey thing, right? Oh, okay, Whitebeard's sticking around, okay. Wait, Kaido's already a dragon? What? So he was just like instantly good at using his fruit. Fair enough. Okay, Saturn turned into a spider thing, okay. The world? Wait, they're calling... So he called Emu the world. Okay, fair enough. That's a bit weird. Okay, wait, next chapter's gonna be hype then? Because it's gonna be like... Yeah, it's gonna be like Garp, Roger, and Zabak fighting, right? Do you think... Do you think that it was a lie? That Garp and Roger teamed up to fight Zabak? Do you think that those three teamed up to fight Emu? Because that's what it's kind of looking like. Like everyone's gonna team up to fight Emu because Emu's like, I don't know, he's a bit strong. Also, as far as I know, Saturn can't die, right? He like takes damage and he just heals. Kagurabachi has a new chapter too. Kind of want to read it, but I won't. I'll leave it for later. That's another one that's going crazy. When that gets an anime, that's gonna pop off.
He was a teenager experiencing natural curiosities, but every impulse was met with shame and repression. So this inner turmoil went unnoticed and
how dare
unaddressed.
he have a peni?
And to the townsfolk of Plainfield, Ed was mostly invisible during these years. No one could have imagined that this boy, so seemingly timid and insignificant, would later unleash horrors that defied imagination. Alright, we need to take a quick minute to tell you about my new obsession, and that is Lola blankets. The thing I'm wrapped up in right now.
Bro, see, I told you.
I'm not even exaggerating when I say
now we get to
this
see the blankets.
Has completely changed my life. At least the comfort in my life. And you know me, I am a blanket person. I've got that whole cozy corner set up with my stack of books and my current Netflix binge.
Like,
but
what?
this Lola blanket,
She said it like with
it's
friends.
on a
What?
whole other level. I truly wish you could feel how soft this is through the screen. It's this incredible vegan faux fur that's somehow both luxurious and practical. I'm currently sporting the caramel and cream color, but I have 2 other ones as well in their
But
largest size. And they're not only
how do you
comfortable,
wash
but
it,
they
though?
also look really nice too, and they've totally
'Cause, like,
elevated my living room.
I've
One of
had
my
a couple
friends even came
blankets
over
that are
last
really
week.
soft
Yes, I
and
have
nice,
friends,
but
and they
then you wash
immediately
them,
asked where
and
I
they're
got
not
this
as nice.
blanket. Even Jay asked me if it's actually worth getting, and I told him straight up, you need to get one immediet's And
How
even
much
when
are
you
they?
wash it, it stays really nice and soft. I've washed this one probably
Clicking the link. Hold on. Let's have a look. Shop now. $170 for a blanket? I mean, I think the most I've spent on a blanket is... No, thank you. What's the most I... How much did I spend on... So I got like a winter blanket that's kind of thick. Because like my thin blanket I was using wasn't enough. So I got a thicker one. That was $80, I think. And even that I was like tossing up whether to spend it, right? I was like, I don't know if I want to spend $80 on a blanket. But I ended up spending $80 on a blanket. It actually wasn't bad. I ended up buying 2 more. But one for my brother and my dad. Because they were actually really good. And they love it too. But $170, that's a lot of money. For a blanket.
10 or 15 times already.
I'm sorry.
There's no
I'm sorry,
pilling
Chris.
and
I
no
can't.
weird shedding. My old throws could never. Plus, it has this
That's too
4-way
much.
stretch that just, I don't know, gives you a hug back, which is really nice. And Lola has over
what
10,000
you want from a
5-star
blanket?
reviews, and honestly, I get why. And I'm one of them. And they call it the world's #1 blanket, and that's not just marketing talk. And I've already got the matching pillows as well. And during the holiday season, you bet your butt
It
I'll
could be,
giving
yeah.
everyone in my family a Lola blanket. And for a limited time, you're getting 35% off your entire order at lolablankets.com using
Yeah, there you
code
go.
CCCM at checkout.
Use the
That's
code.
lolablankets.com
And
with
the link.
code
Do it.
CCCM for
Do it.
35% off. And when they ask where you
Buy a
heard about
blanket.
them, please tell them I sent you. It really helps support the
Yeah,
show.
when you
But
buy
seriously,
one, tell
wrap
them that
yourself in
I sent you
luxury
from
with
Chris
Lola
sending you.
Blankets, because you deserve it. Thank you so much to Lola Blankets for
Do it.
supporting the channel and sponsoring this video, and let's get back to it. So as Ed Gein grew into his late
Do you
teens
reckon
and
that
20s,
the-
the 1920s
the
and
blanket
1930s,
people would probably just
his
send
world
her free
remained in
blankets,
the cramped
right?
confines of the family farm and the grip of his
Maybe she
mother,
bought
of
her own.
course. And Ed's father, George Gein, deteriorated significantly during this period because years of alcohol
Yeah, I was about to say.
caught up to him. So
He was, like,
became
abusing
weak
alcohol like
and
crazy,
frequently
wasn't he?
ill and unable to contribute much to the farm. And by the late 1930s, George was essentially a helpless invalid, entirely dependent on the family members whom he had alienated with his drinking and abuse. And Augusta and the boys feared and despised George, considering him a living embodiment of failure. And he spent his days mostly in a stupor, offering occasional slurred complaints, but little else. And in April 1940, George Gein finally died. Officially of heart failure, likely made worse by his alcoholism at the age of 66. And Augusta, ever unforgiving,
He lived decently
reportedly
though,
remarked
right?
that her husband's death was a
66,
result
that's
of
a
his own weakness,
good
and
amount.
that he was now reaping divine punishment.
Oh, okay.
I'm sure they had
Jesus.
just a wonderful marriage together. Guy was probably just hoping for death. Not that he was a good guy, he was also evil, but you know, just a whole shit situation. And naturally, Augusta
like,
expressed zero grief during
evil in
this
this-
time.
in this
because now, with
conversation
George
is-
gone, the Gein household
not, like,
consisted of
comparable,
just
right?
Augusta and her 2
'Cause, like,
adult
Ed
sons.
is, like,
Henry, now nearing
a
40
whole other
years
level.
old, and Ed, who was in his mid-30s. And the dynamic began to shift in subtle ways. And the brothers, particularly Henry, assumed the responsibilities of keeping the farm and
I might actually
finances
watch the
afloat.
monster
So both
thing.
men would take on odd jobs around Plainfield to supplement their meager farm income. And they did handyman work for neighbors, repairing roofs, doing carpentry, manual labor, and Ed in particular found his own niche, which was babysitting children.
What?
I don't know about that. But Ed would relate easier to children than to adults. And perhaps because his own emotional development was stunted and he felt
Okay.
less judged by kids. And
Yeah,
neighbors
probably.
considered Ed and Henry trustworthy and honest workers. And out in the community, the Gein
Wait, he
brothers
didn't-
gave little cause for any sort of alarm. They were
He didn't
dependable
cut the
if you
faces
needed
of
help,
children,
and
did
Ed's
he?
quiet demeanor led many to view him as harmless. He was just the shy bachelor who could fix your fence or watch your children, known to be polite and somewhat childlike himself. Behind closed doors, however, significant tensions were brewing between the Gein brothers and their formidable mother. Because Henry had never
fixing
been
a
as
fence,
wholly
like,
under Augusta's spell as
something
Ed
people are
was.
looking for?
And as he entered middle
'Cause
age,
that's not
Henry
hard.
began to challenge Augusta's authority in ways Ed would never dare. And Henry started dating a local woman, a divorced single mother of 2, and expressed plans of moving in with her. I'm scared. Because this was an open act of defiance against Augusta's wishes. She would have seen a divorced woman as a living sin, as if she didn't already see women in general as just deplorable creatures.
She
And
sees
what's
her
more
sons
is
as
Henry
living
had
sins
the
too,
audacity
right?
to
Because they have
criticize
penile.
Augusta in
The
front
penile
of
urge.
Ed. And he told
Right.
Ed that their mother was overbearing and that Ed's attachment to her was unhealthy. Henry's just saying what we're all thinking, isn't he? And these comments shocked and hurt Ed deeply, and he reacted as if Henry was uttering blasphemy. Because to Ed, as we know, Augusta could do no wrong, and hearing his brother speak ill of their sainted mother was nearly unthinkable. So the relationship between the
dare you.
brothers started to fray, and Henry's independent streak just started to grow,
Yeah, we're
while
starting to
Ed
get to the...
remained ever the dutiful son. And by the early 1940s, Henry's private attitude toward his mother was reportedly one of growing resentment.
Yeah, we're starting to
He
get to
saw
the
Augusta as a
thing.
toxic influence,
The
and
stuff
he
Ed
worried
does, right?
aloud about what would become of Ed when something would happen to their mother. And Henry allegedly confided to friends that he was concerned for Ed's mental state, given how obsessed Ed was with Augusta. And this concern turned out to be a tragic foresight, because on May 16th, 1944, a mysterious incident occurred that would later raise many eyebrows, because the brothers would
What
be
happened?
burning brush on their property, a routine task of clearing marsh
Oh, he didn't move
vegetation.
out?
But the fire would blaze out of control and drew the attention of the Plainfield Volunteer Fire Department.
I thought he was moving out.
After firefighters doused the flames, Henry was nowhere to be found. And Ed claimed that he had lost sight of Henry in the confusion. And a search party went out that night and found Henry's dead body lying face down. And Henry was 43 years old at the time. And at first glance, it appeared he might have succumbed to heart failure while fighting the fire, as there was no significant burns on his body. And the local coroner listed asphyxiation from smoke as the cause of death, and authorities
So he's killed his brother, right? That's clearly what's happened. But like, why wouldn't you throw him in the fire? Like, I don't know. If it was me, I probably I would have threw his body in the fire. I wouldn't have just, I don't know.
accepted it as just a tragic death.
Weird.
However, some details didn't add up. Because according to one
the
biographer,
fact that he had, like, a
Henry's
knife wound?
corpse had bruises on the head that suggested he may have been struck. And no autopsy was performed, and given Ed's reputation as a simple, good-natured soul, police didn't investigate further. And it wasn't until years later, after Ed's crimes came to light, that people looked back and wondered, did Ed Gein kill his own brother? Was this mysterious fire the
Probably.
cover for a revenge born out of Ed's
But, like,
devotion to
why-
Augusta and
so-
fury at Henry's descent?
He made the
And one
fire
chronologist later
to
called
throw
it
people
the
off, but then why wouldn't you
Cain
throw him
and
in the
Abel
fire? That's like
aspect of
so
the case.
confusing.
Got to go back to the Old Testament to read that one, folks. But for those of you who don't know, it implied that Ed removed Henry to have their mother all to himself. Ugh. And while we'll never know for sure, the circumstances remain suspicious to say the least. At the very least, Henry's death conveniently silenced the only person who openly challenged Augusta's dominance. So with Henry now gone, Ed Gein was now alone
Their mother
with
looks
Augusta,
weird. There's
and
something
he
about his
was in
mother
late
that's, like,
30s,
creepy.
Yet in many
Is that
ways
just me?
still a child under his mother's thumb. And the
She's
traumatic
creepy
events of
too.
1944 only intensified Ed's dependence. And shortly after Henry's death, Augusta suffered a paralyzing stroke. And the domineering matriarch was suddenly left very weak and partially incapacitated. And Ed responded with unwavering dedication.
She'd be in
And
her
he waited
60s
on
too,
his
right?
ailing mother hand and foot. and all the resentment he might have harbored over her harsh treatment was buried under an almost pathetic devotion. And he rarely left her side. And to the outside eyes, he appeared to be the ideal, dutiful son, sacrificing his own life to care for his invalid mother. And for a brief period, it seemed Augusta appreciated Ed's loyalty. But Augusta was not one to soften easily, as we know. And an incident late in 1945 illustrated that her fiery judgment remained intact. And Ed recounted that he had driven Augusta, still frail from her stroke, to visit a neighbor, a man named Smith, to buy some straw. And while they were there, Smith brutally dogged to death in front of Augusta and Ed. So Augusta witnessed this horrifying act, but what upset her far more was something else. And that was a woman came out of Smith's house during the commotion. And Augusta realized this woman was Smith's girlfriend, so they were living together, unmarried, and this meant this was Smith's harlot, as Augusta would spit out. And she was livid, not about the horrific animal cruelty, but about the immorality of an unwed woman being present in a man's home. And she had a second stroke soon afterwards. So her health went into rapid decline after
animal
that,
abuse
as if
is
her
probably
body
like
could no
common
longer
back then,
sustain
right?
the fury and righteousness burning inside her. And on December 29th, 1945, Augusta Wilhelmine Geen died at the age of 67. And for Ed, the loss was cataclysmic. He was absolutely devastated. And in the words of biographer Harold Schechter, Ed had, quote, lost his only friend and one true love, and he was absolutely alone in the world, unquote. Now, this dramatic phrasing isn't an exaggeration, as we know, because Augusta had
sounds
indeed
gross,
been
though, to say that about your mother.
everything to Ed.
Just gonna say
she was
that.
his mother, his mentor, his commander, and the object of his twisted adoration. And Ed's entire universe revolved around pleasing her. And now, suddenly, she was gone. And in a very real sense, the now almost 40-year-old Ed was now an orphan, because he was severely stunted emotionally. And worse, an orphan who had never been allowed a life outside of his mother's shadow. So the aftermath of Augusta's death would mark the end of Ed's remaining tether to normalcy, because he had no siblings left, no friends, no spouse or
Does he just go crazy?
no father, and no mother. He had nothing. And the last human being he truly loved in his own warped way was buried in Plainfield Cemetery, leaving Ed Gein utterly alone on that isolated farm. And this moment at the end of 1945 was the turning point, and the descent into utter madness was about to begin. And all the evil seeds that had been planted in Ed's psyche over decades, the repression, the violent fantasies, the unhealthy obsession with his mother, now had free rein to grow.
I just realized. I think my Nan and Pop would have been children when this dude got caught. I think it just occurred to me. That's crazy.
In horrific ways. So after Augusta Gein's death, Ed Gein's life slipped into eerie solitude and derangement. And he remained on the family's 155-acre Plainfield farm, but it was now a tomb of memories rather than any sort of home. And in an act of preservation, Ed boarded up every area of the farmhouse that his mother had used, including the entire upstairs, the parlor, and the living room, sealing them off like
What is a parlor? What? Hold on. Parlor. Okay, well, that didn't help. In a house. A parlor is a formal sitting room, historically used for receiving guests. It today can be a formal living room, reception room, or even a dedicated space for reading or hobbies. People used to have a dedicated room to receive guests? What? If someone comes around to our house, we just go on the veranda. Like, we talk on the veranda. Does that make that the parlor? Like, these pictures just look like lounge rooms. These look like rooms with lounges in it. That one has like a chessboard and stuff in it. Weird. Okay.
Really weird shrine. And he left these rooms completely untouched, frozen in time with her furnishings gathering dust. And they stayed spotlessly preserved behind those closed doors, while
So
the rest of the
was he
house
cleaning
just
them?
fell into squalor. And Ed himself moved into a small bedroom adjacent to the kitchen and basically lived in chaos amidst filth and junk, never cleaning or caring for the house beyond his mother's sacred spaces.
Oh my god.
And to support himself, Ed did occasional odd jobs just as before. Beginning in 1951, he even received a small government farm subsidy as part of a soil conservation program, and that money helped him get
A
by
what?
without having to farm much. But he continued working as a handyman for neighbors and on road crews when needed. And he also sold an 80-acre parcel of land that Henry had owned somewhere between 1946 and 1956. So outwardly, Ed's routine might have seemed somewhat normal for a reclusive bachelor, but internally, something had broken. And with no Augusta to supervise or restrain him, Ed's mind wandered down dark and unthinkable paths. And this is when he became an avid consumer of pulp magazines and cheap adventure books, even more so than he was as a teen. And it wasn't the same content.
Who does he
because
Leatherface
this
then?
wasn't the innocent kind, because Ed primarily fixated on stories that fed his gruesome curiosities. And he particularly loved tales of cannibalism, headhunters,
Okay.
and
Jesus.
the German bad guy atrocities. I don't know if I can say that word without YouTube getting freaked out, but you know
What, Hitler?
I'm talking about.
I say it a
okay?
lot.
And one of his known interests was the case
Benny loves
of
him.
Ilse
His best
Polk,
friend.
the wife of a German bad guy concentration camp commandant who was infamously accused of making lampshades from prisoners' tattooed skin. Ugh. So
What?
scary and nasty. And Ed read every detail of such accounts with fascination. And it's haunting to note that some of Koch's alleged practices, using human skin for household items, mirror what Ed himself would do later. And he also pored over anatomy texts.
He worked in a
And at
tannery,
some
didn't
point in the late 1940s, Ed
So he
Gein
knows how to
crossed
do
a
it.
boundary that few could even fathom, and he would begin robbing graves. So as Ed's grotesque activities
I thought he killed
escalated,
people.
so did the evident pathology behind them. And Gein later revealed an
I
astonishing
thought he was, like,
motive
killing
to
and skinning people.
investigators. He was literally trying to create a, quote, woman suit, unquote, from human skin so that he could become his mother to literally crawl into her skin, unquote. It's as chilling as it sounds, because Ed missed Augusta so...
So then, was the gravy robbed his mother? Is he taking her skin? Or is he taking, like, other women's skin? And trying to, like, recreate her skin with other women's skin? I'm curious. I don't know how this is working.
terribly and was so psychologically warped that he believed he could bring some aspect of her by wearing the remains of women who reminded him of her. Just the ultimate messed up final boss mommy's boy. It was like a perverse form of idol worship and identity theft combined. So he would stitch together skin from female corpses that were already deceased because he was grave robbing. He did not kill these people yet, but he would stitch them together to fashion a
So
copy
he did
of
eventually
a
kill
female
people.
body,
Okay.
including a vest like torso or a corset of skin from shoulders to waist and leggings made of human leg skin, and masks peeled from their faces. And when he donned these horrific costumes in the privacy of his home, Ed could pretend Augusta was still with him. My skin is, I wanna crawl inside myself right now. It's horrific to think.
Okay, wait, hold on. There's no way that there's pictures of this, right? I'm curious on what they look like not on him, just like Ed Gein. What would you call them? Skin suit? Skin suit? Image? Oh, so this is like the actual... Bro, it doesn't look like anything. It's fucking... what's disgusting. But like, it doesn't look like a face. It just looks like he didn't do a very good job at this. I'll say that much. In 1954, a man murdered a woman and made a mask from her skin, along with other disturbing items. Is that Gain? That's gotta be Gain, right? Yeah, Wisconsin town. Bro, fucking my brain. Okay. So that's the mask. It doesn't even look like a person. It's like, I don't know how to explain this. No fucking way. They've put it in a fucking container. They've put it in a container and have it on display. That's crazy. It makes sense. Makes sense that they would do that, but like that's crazy though. Okay. Charlie Human or whatever, right? That's his name? Is that his name? Is that the guy who's the actor? I'm looking up. Yeah, Charlie Hunnam. Hunnam? That's his name. Hunnam. Okay, so like strange. Like they didn't even look like people.
Think about. And this
Did he
behavior
ever
goes
look in the mirror
beyond
when he wore
any
it?
ordinary mental illness. It was uniquely deranged. And during this descent, Ed
This is a
also
mental
kept
illness?
trophies and tokens. And many of these gruesome items would later be found in Ed's
Is it
home,
just called crazy?
shocking the entire world. But in the late 1940s and early 1950s, no one knew this lonely old Gein place was essentially a twisted morgue. And there were
Yeah.
a few red flags noticed by locals, but they were either dismissed or seen as eccentricities, I guess. One 16-year-old kid who knew Ed, which was the son of one of the family friends, recalled that Ed showed him some shrunken heads he kept at the farm, claiming they were war relics sent by a cousin who served in the Pacific. But in reality, they were the peeled faces of women Ed had exhumed, carefully treated to look like macabre collections.
Okay, that's weird. Wait, how do you shrink a head? How do you shrink a head? How do you even manage that? Traditionally gruesome process performed on human or animal heads. There's shrunken animal heads? Okay. It was just humans. Not on a living person. So, okay, fair enough. You do you. Skull was removed. The skin was boiled. And then hot sand and stones were used to further shrink it before it was dried and seared. It is not possible to physically shrink the size of a living human head. What? Did you need to tell me that? I thought that was obvious. Wait, well, okay, sure, they're shrunken, but they're not really shrunken, right? Like, they're shrunken a little bit, but not a lot. Okay, that one's shrunken a lot. Holy shit. Weird. That's so weird. Oh my god.
And when this eventually came to light, the entire community realized that Ed had been parading his grisly souvenirs in plain sight. But no one had believed it was anything real, of course. You don't assume your next-door neighbor is digging up 5-year dead Susie and sewing her into a lampshade. So by the early 1950s, it seems Ed's morbid obsessions were no longer satisfied.
Okay, I was about to say something really stupid.
Alone.
I was about to say, like, how does no one, like, recognize
were not enough to fulfill his
the people?
ultimate
But then
fantasy.
I was like, oh no, wait.
And he started craving
I just looked at the
fresher
face skin he made.
corpses,
You couldn't
one
recognize
that he
shit.
didn't have to dig up. So Ed Gein was on the path to murder. All while outwardly he still appeared as that quiet,
It's kind of strange how long it took him to get to murder, though, right?
So Ed Gein is officially recognized as the killer of 2 women. And those are the crimes that finally exposed his full monstrosity. So Mary Hogan was a divorcee in her early 50s who ran a tavern in a nearby community in Bancroft, just a few miles from Plainfield. And curiously,
how dare
Mary
she get
bore
divorced?
a physical resemblance to Augusta that drew Ed's attention. And on a cold winter afternoon of December 8th, 1954, Mary Hogan vanished from her tavern. And details of her disappearance are scarce. And it was as if Mary had been there one minute and just gone the next. But in reality, Ed Gein had shot Mary Hogan inside her own tavern.
Where are these ants coming from?
With uncanny strength or sheer determination,
This is
he
like
hauled
spawning
her
on my
onto
legs.
a sled and dragged her body back to his farm. And back at the farm, this is where he would disassemble Mary and hide her different parts.
That's
and
a way
when
of saying
Ed's
it.
crimes were finally uncovered in 1957, authorities found Mary Hogan's face made into a mask of sorts that was just stashed away in a paper bag inside of Ed Gein's home, as well as her skull in a box.
He didn't take very good care of her face.
Well. And Ed eventually admitted to killing Mary Hogan, though he later said he couldn't recall the details of the murder itself. So it's possible that in Ed's fractured mind, he went into an almost disassociative state during the act.
Like a
of murder,
trance.
much as he described being in a daze during grave robbing. But whatever the case, Mary Hogan's demise was Ed's alleged first step from
I feel like it takes a hot minute to, like,
active killer.
to dig up a body, right?
Didn't kill his
How did no
brother,
one
which,
notice?
I wouldn't put it past him. Yet, at the time, no one connected the mild-mannered Ed Gein to the tavern lady's disappearance. And Mary Hogan became a cold case, and Ed continued
why would they?
about his business
Everyone was
for
saying
a
that he
few
was cool
more
or whatever,
years.
right?
And then there was Mrs. Bernice Warden, who was 58 and was the owner
That's a
of
woman?
Warden's Hardware Store. And it was the
Looks
main
like a
hardware
man.
store in Plainfield. And she was a familiar figure in the community. And on
He's
the
targeting
opening
old
day of
ladies.
deer hunting season, November 16th, 1957, Plainfield was quiet as many men were in the woods hunting. And Bernice opened her shop as usual that morning. And at around 9:30 a.m., a witness saw the store's pickup truck driving away from the rear of the building, but thought little of it at the time. And the hardware store then remained oddly empty the whole day. And it wasn't until 5 p.m. that Bernice's son, Deputy Frank Warden, checked on the store, and he found a disturbing scene inside.
He targeted...
The cash register was open and bloodstains splattered the floor, and Bernice was nowhere to be found.
He targeted the
And
fucking
Frank
cop's
immediately
mother.
suspected foul play, and as a lawman,
What
he
an
started
idiot.
piecing clues together on the spot. And he recalled that the previous evening, Ed had been in the store and said he'd be back the next morning to buy antifreeze. And sure enough, the last sales receipt written by Bernice that day was for a gallon of antifreeze, time-stamped the morning of her disappearance. Ed wasn't the smartest fella, as we're
Yeah,
seeing.
clearly.
So Ed, the quiet handyman who occasionally came by, was suddenly the prime and only suspect in Bernice Warden's apparent abduction. And that evening, officers from Washara County Sheriff's Department went out to look for
Brr.
Ed and Bernice.
I just thought
And they
about
ultimately found
how, like, I don't even know how you would feel to, like, find out that your mother has been turned into, like a skin mask. Someone killed your mother and turned her into, like, a skin mask. Like, you gotta be, like, feeling, like, a whole bunch of things, right? Like, that's like, crazy. Did they ever, like, wait, did they ever figure out what bodies he, like, exhumed? Like, I wonder if that's the thing, too, because, like, that's another thing. Could you imagine, like, burying your sister
Ed
that died
and
or whatever,
arrested him.
and then finding
some
out years
accounts
later that
mention at a
Ed
West
Gein
Plainfield grocery store, and others mention
dug
he
him
was
up and
found
turned him
at
into a
neighbor's
mask?
place, but we don't know for sure. And then police would proceed to the Gein property, uncertain of what they would find. And it was dark as the officers cautiously
Did they
entered
need
Ed's
warrants back
yard
then?
and outbuildings, and Deputy Sheriff Sclee and others had to light their way to cut through the gloom. And what they discovered would forever scar them. Because in the
I
shed,
bet.
they caught a ghastly sight. And it would be the body of Bernice Warden. And at the point that they found her, her head had been removed and she was hanging upside down from a wooden crossbar at her ankle. Essentially hung like a slaughtered deer. And her body would also be...
Okay, the fact that she, like, beeped that out makes me think she said anus. And not ankles.
dressed out like a game animal. But Bernice's cause of death would be a shot with a .22 caliber rifle. So trembling but
What?
determined, the police pressed on into Ed Gein's house of horrors.
I'm sorry. What? That motherfucker went into the hardware store and shot the old lady with a rifle? Like, you couldn't just, like, choke her out? She's like an old lady. You couldn't overpower the old lady? You had to shoot her with a rifle? I feel like that's really excessive.
And inside that filthy, evil farmhouse revealed a scene beyond any nightmare. And the search team found evidence of human remains literally everywhere. It was a chamber of grotesqueries, a hellish workshop littered
Grotesqueries? Is that a
with the
word?
fruits of Ed's macabre hobby. And among the
so, I like
stomach-churning
it.
discoveries documented by crime lab technicians were human bones,
Oh my god, his house is
countless whole
disgusting.
bones and fragments strewn about.
Why are they
Skulls,
looking in
some
through the
were
window like they're not
affixed
allowed
to
in?
Ed's bedposts like bizarre ornaments, and others had their tops cut off and were being used as soup bowls. And there were
Do you reckon that when he became an
crazy
adult,
amount of items in
he
the
would,
home
like,
just
jack it?
made of human skin, including wastebaskets,
he would
chair
jerk his
seats,
peanuts?
clothing, and
Or do you think he just
masks
continued to
and
not jerk his
organs and other
penis because his
body
mother said
parts,
no?
including noses were found in paper bags, lips, and other body parts had been fashioned into other
Why was he
things
just
you'd
putting them
use
in
your
paper
house,
bags, by
like
the way?
a pull for a window shade, and they would find Bernice's head inside the home, inside of a burlap sack, and her heart would be found in a plastic bag right next to the stove. And it's often said Ed
Wait.
was intending to cook or eat
was
it,
about to
though
say.
Ed denied cannibalism, even though he was extremely fascinated with cannibalism, as we know.
Yeah.
But the list
I mean, he
is
was eating
quite
people
literally
too.
endless, and if this video is
nom,
probably
nom, nom,
already
nom.
on the hit list for YouTube, but you have to look at it yourself. I cannot say these things on the internet because the sheer volume of human material in that house was staggering, and photos were taken of everything as evidence.
That's a
and
good way of
then the
saying it,
remains
human
were
material.
decently disposed of, according to officials. meaning they were eventually given proper burials or incinerated to put those poor, unfortunate souls to rest. So in
They were already
custody,
put to rest.
Ed Gein proved to be compliant and even
I guess they
a
wouldn't be able to
helpful
figure out
prisoner.
who's
And once
who's,
the
right?
shock of his capture subsided, Gein confessed in detail to how he had been obtaining most of those body parts, and he calmly explained his grave robbing exploits to investigators, as if discussing just a normal hobby. And according to Gein, between 1947 and 1952, he made around 40 nocturnal visits to local cemeteries in Plainfield and nearby towns. And he
Is it just me, or is like, can we go back a bit? Wait, hold on.
visits to low 47 and 9.
Is this me, or like, the serial killers have this? They all have this like stare, right? Like it's like a way they look with their eyes, where you're like, oh yeah, they're crazy, bro. Like every serial killer has this like stare. It's hard to explain, but it's like they all have it. It's just this way they look at things.
1952, he made around 40 nocturnal visits to local cemeteries in Plainfield and nearby towns, and he preferred times when there was a recent burial of women in middle age. And those were the obituaries he watched for. And Ed stated that on many of those trips, he was in a hazy, trance-like state.
Do they still do
and in about
obituaries
30
today?
of those instances, he would wake up
They
from
might.
this daze while standing in the cemetery and then head home empty-handed, leaving the graves in proper condition. However, in those times he didn't wake up, he did carry out the act of digging up a coffin, opening it, and stealing the remains. And he was selective, often taking only certain parts that he needed. Usually he only took the head and some other parts of the body, Time magazine summarized from his confession.
So,
only once an entire female corpse. Oh my god.
so he made like a bunch
Gein's
of masks.
recollections were so specific that he was able to point authorities to the exact graves he had violated. And in total, Gein confessed to raiding 9 graves and using the parts from those dead corpses. Given the degraded conditions of some remains, it's possible he disturbed even more graves than he recalled, but 9 were confirmed to investigators' satisfaction. And Ed's grave-robbing methodology revealed just how calculated yet deranged his actions were, because he often struck shortly after the funeral when the grave had not yet been finished, and Plainsfield's sandy soil made digging a lot easier, and Ed had the cover of night and the isolation of the cemetery to hide his crimes. And as for motive, Gein told police exactly what we've covered. He was in a daze, longing for his mother, and felt compelled to go to the graveyard.
So the fact that like
and
no one
dig.
saw
And he admitted that after his
that no one saw that these graves were disturbed implies that he undug them, got the parts he wanted, put the coffin back or whatever, and then reburied them, right? That's what this is implying, which is like crazy. That's like that would take like all night, right? Because don't they? How far down do they bury people? They bury them pretty far down, right? How deep are coffins buried? 4 to 6 feet. Yeah. Ow. Regulations and practices differ, but a minimum of 100 millimeters, about 3 feet. So the minimum is 3 feet. That's a good amount of dirt you have to undig. It says like 6 feet is traditional. Yeah, that would take a while, right? Hold on. How long does it take to dig a grave with a shovel? Because now they do it with, like, excavators, right? Sometimes the ground is frozen. It can take 2 days. Sometimes you're in a dense clay, and it can take 2 to 3 days. The average person would not dig a grave by hand, but as much shovel work as I've seen by average people, I would say the average person would dig a 6-foot grave in 4.5 days. So he would be at that like all night, right? He would have to be. Because he undigs it, takes the body parts, then reburies them. That's crazy, bro. That is crazy.
His mother's death, he began fashioning his woman suit to try to become her.
Is that what
and
we're
have
calling
her
it?
close to him again.
Doesn't really look
Just
like a
saying
woman.
It like it's just no big deal. Like it's a casual Tuesday activity everyone does. And in a way, these grave thefts were Ed's twisted form of grief therapy, but obviously inexcusable.
Okay.
But in his mind, he
a
was
weird way to
using the
grieve,
dead
not
to
gonna lie.
fill the void Augusta left. And in the end, law enforcement concluded that Ed's capacity for violence was likely focused specifically on women who resembled his mother and were of his peculiar interest. And psychiatrists later concurred that Gein's pathology was not that of a typical serial killer driven to kill indiscriminately. Rather, he had a very specific and bizarre drive stemming
Can he
from
be
his mother.
Considered a
fixation.
serial killer?
So,
He only killed 2
while
people.
Gein is often called a serial killer in pop culture, technically his confirmed murders stopped at 2. Which
Yeah.
is Mary Hogan and Bernice Warden.
That's what I'm
And
saying.
the rest of his victims were already deceased.
Yeah.
Stolen from graves, not killed by his own
He's a serial
hand.
graver, though.
Although, I'm still convinced he killed his brother, so I would make him a serial killer, but we don't
Oh,
know
okay,
that for
yeah, I
sure,
forgot
so
about that. Never
that's
mind.
allegedly. But families had to grapple with this devastating knowledge that their loved one's body
never mind.
had been mutilated by
Killed his
Gein
brother,
after
too, that's 3.
burial. I can't even imagine just knowing that a family
That's
member
definitely a
has been
serial killer.
stolen and then crafted into a household. Oh my! It's just so it's like this was a long time ago, but my God, it is horrific to think about. It was just a final insult that horrified the community. And throughout all these revelations, Ed Gein sat in custody with a sort of mild detachment. And those who interacted with him were
Did
struck
they do
by how
fingerprinting in
calm
that back
he
then?
remained, even as he described the monstrous acts that he committed. And when asked why he hadn't engaged in any sort of romantic acts with the bodies, Gein gave a straightforward answer. And he said, "They smelled too bad." Okay. It was just as if he truly
Wait.
lacked any conventional understanding of morality.
that means
or
that if
the
they didn't
enormity
smell,
of
he
his
would,
crimes. He
right?
was more concerned with practical matters like odor. And in Ed's distorted mind,
Does that mean
wearing
that
a human skin suit and eating from skull bones were part of his private, totally normal
Does that mean
world.
that,
And he showed almost no comprehension of
Does that mean that the 2 women he killed, right? The old lady. I don't think he did it with the old lady, but the other one? The, like, divorced wife or whatever the fuck her name was? I don't remember what her name was. Did he maybe sleep with that one? Because she wouldn't have stunk, right? Because he killed her. Because he just said they stunk too bad. Which, I mean, if they didn't stink, then he probably would,
why
right?
others were so appalled. And with Ed Gein's confession and the evidence from his farm, the case was largely solved. And what remained was to see how the justice system would handle someone who had committed deeds so beyond the pale.
He's
The
wearing
legal
gumboots.
proceedings
What?
would determine whether Ed Gein was sane and accountable for his actions, and what to do with the butcher of Plainfield now that he was off the streets. So when Sheriff Art Skley and other officers entered the Gein farm that night, they stumbled into one of the most horrific crime scenes in American history, as we know. And these were seasoned small-town cops and volunteer deputies, but nothing could have prepared them for what they found in that dark farmhouse, particularly the discovery of Bernice Warden's deceased body. So with heavy hearts and
She
just
was missing a
growing
head though,
dread,
right?
the team moved through the cluttered house and systemically uncovered Ed's ghastly collection. So news of the House of Horrors spread rapidly, and the investigation expanded with assistance from state agents and crime lab
Is the
personnel.
farmhouse, like,
And
still
every item in
around?
Gein's house was photographed and cataloged as evidence, and forensic pathologists and investigators worked to identify the origin of several of the body parts. And they matched some to known graveyard vacancies, and others to Mary
Graveyard
Hogan and
vacancies.
Bernice Warden, as we know. But it was a massive undertaking that turned the Gein farm into a forensic excavation site. And household tools were gathered and tested, and over the following days, as Ed's confessions came in, local authorities had to quietly exhume several graves to verify Ed's claims. And they did this under the radar to avoid a media circus at the cemeteries. And the results corroborated Ed's stories. And during those initial interrogations, Ed proved unusually forthcoming, as we know, perhaps feeling relieved that his secret life was finally out in the open. And he spoke freely with investigators about the details of what he had done. However, Sheriff Art Sclee, the man who led the investigation,
like in his brain, he probably doesn't see that
lost his
what he did is
temper
wrong,
at one
right?
point, because faced with this mild-mannered ghoul calmly describing his monstrous acts, Sclee snapped, and he reportedly slammed Ed's head into a brick wall during questioning out of rage and revulsion. I kind of get it. Is it right? No. But
Yeah, I was gonna
also,
say.
he killed people, you know? And this resulted in Gein's early statements being ruled inadmissible in court because they were deemed coerced. And it also weighed heavily on Sclee's psyche. And the sheriff was deeply traumatized by what he had seen in that farmhouse. Of course, I can't even think. You're just a small town cop, and you just come across this like the pit of hell.
Death
house.
house.
It's all really
House of corpses. That's
People
what it is.
who knew him said he was never the same after encountering the Gein case. And tragically, Sclee died of a heart attack in 1968 at the age of 43, just before Ed Gein's trial. So I can only imagine that stress was a factor in that. Meanwhile, as evidence was being collected, the case against Ed Gein for the murder of Bernice Warden and the murder of Mary Hogan, which he had confessed to, was solidifying. And the gruesome physical evidence from his property was
Ed's
overwhelming.
mind. You probably didn't see what
Ed's
he did
own admissions
as wrong,
filled
right?
in the narrative of both murders. And investigators also interrogated Gein
like
about various unsolved
he's stunted,
cases of missing
right?
persons in Wisconsin,
Point out a
fearing
couple
that
of times.
perhaps his bloodlust extended beyond Hogan and Warden. And they specifically asked about
So his brain
two
probably can't
cases.
process that what he did was
Georgia
even
Weckler,
wrong.
an 8-year-old girl who vanished in 1947, and Evelyn Hartley, a 14-year-old babysitter who was abducted in 1953, because both cases had grabbed headlines and remained mysteries. And Gein was cooperative during questioning and even took 2 lie detector tests regarding these disappearances, and he denied any sort of involvement in those or any other murders beyond Hogan and Warden. And the polygraph results seemed to back him up, and investigators found 0 physical evidence linking Gein to those particular crimes. Which, I mean, it makes sense that he's not connected to those, because he was clearly targeting women that reminded him of his mother.
Yeah, he was targeting like middle-aged women.
Every person that he desecrated, there was evidence in the house. So I believe without a shadow of a doubt that he did not have anything to do with those murders personally. It doesn't make sense with his MO. And obviously that's what authorities thought as well. And the town of Plainfield was left in a state of shock, fear, and dark fascination. Neighbors realized with horror that the friendly man who had babysat their children and allegedly brought them home venison, meat,
if you're one of the ones that like let him babysit,
it was later suspected some of that venison might not have been deer at all, which is terrifying and disgusting.
Just feeding people
had been
to
living
people
amongst human organs and just flesh. And many longtime residents refused to speak of all the events at all, as if trying to push the nightmare out of memory. And the notoriety of Ed Gein made Plainfield the reluctant focus of national attention. And the local hardware store, the site of Warden's murder, suddenly became a true crime landmark, a sign of advertising and antifreeze sale was ironically sitting out front when curious tourists started coming by. Just a stark reminder of the innocuous errand that lured Bernice Worden to her death, which is just so sad and sick.
Still can't believe he used a
I mean,
fucking
these
rifle.
These are people.
On like
and
a little old lady.
Just violated horribly. So
That's
like,
just
I understand.
that's crazy.
Obviously, I have a true crime channel, but just to be like excited about, I don't know. It creeps me out. I don't understand
people are
that.
weird.
I never get used to telling these cases at all, especially these kinds of cases. My lord. So as authorities,
I find it
processed
interesting
the
to hear
Dean's
these
crime
things,
scene,
but like
journalists were banging on the door for any lurid detail they could publish.
I
And
don't
on
know,
December
doesn't
2nd,
make you happy to hear them,
1957,
though.
Life magazine ran a spread titled House
But
of
they are
Horror
interesting.
Stuns the Nation, complete with photographs of Gein's creepy farmhouse and descriptions of the ghastly evidence. And Americans from coast to coast read about the mild-mannered farmer who had turned his home into a human slaughterhouse and scavenged graveyards under the moonlight. And the name Ed Gein became synonymous with a new level of depravity. And what made it all the more chilling was that Ed was not a gangland criminal or an urban maniac. He was a seemingly ordinary small-town neighbor, and the story just tapped into a primal fear.
Yeah, he's just fucking
that
weird.
unimaginable evil could be lurking in the most mundane places. And the
brain's been
aftermath in
stunted.
Plainfield was chaotic. And so many people came to town that
probably
the
has
authorities worried
CTE
someone
that we
might
don't know
torch
of.
Gein's house or steal evidence. And Gein's property, the house and 195 acres of land, was eventually boarded up and
195
sent to the
acres?
auction the
Jesus
next
Christ.
spring. And there were even rumors that some entrepreneur might buy the house and turn it into a museum or a tourist attraction. And this idea appalled the townspeople,
Yeah,
rightfully
like-
so. And in March of 1958, just days before the auction, Gein's house mysteriously burned to the ground in an overnight fire. And the fire marshal suspected arson, noting that a rubbish fire had been started near the home by a cleanup crew and that the flames somehow reached the house, but nothing was proven. And I genuinely think that's for the best, to be honest. And many locals quietly felt a sense of relief
Yeah, that boy,
seeing
like,
the
who gives
House
a
of
shit?
Horrors reduced to ashes, including its said
Good riddance.
Plainfield fire chief, who happened to be Bernice Worden's son, potentially insinuating that not everything was done to stop the fire. And when Ed Gein, sitting in jail, was informed that his house had burned down, he only shrugged and said, "Just as well." And one artifact from Ed's life that did survive was his infamous Ford sedan, and the same car he had used to haul bodies, both
Is this a
corpses
sedan?
from graves and the bodies of his murder victims. And in a bizarre ending, the car
Oh,
was
that's a
sold
sedan,
at
yeah.
a public auction for $760 to a carnival sideshow operator named Bunny Gibbons. And Benny then charged curiosity seekers 25 cents admission to see the car at fairs. So literally, people lined up to pay a quarter to peer through the windows of the old Ford, imagining what
So
horrors
weird,
its
bro.
trunk had carried. What the shit? But this grim exhibit just
Yeah,
underscores how
that is
Ed
pretty
Gein's
weird.
case immediately embedded itself in pop culture and the public imagination.
People are
And
strange,
from an
man.
investigative standpoint, the Gein case was unique in that the crime scene was the evidence, because practically every horrific item in Ed's house was a piece of evidence of some crime, either murder, grave theft, or body mutilation. And the forensic work involved identifying the
Why didn't he,
remains
like,
and
make
linking
a
them
chair
to
out of
known
the bones
cases.
or something?
And all told, the remains of 11 women were accounted for, and the 2 Gein admitted to killing, and pieces from 9 exhumed bodies. And forensic pathologists also had determined the cause of death for the 2 victims. Bernice Worden's forensic analysis confirmed she died of a gunshot wound to the head. And Mary Hogan's remains were less complete, but there was no evidence that Gein
Wait, he shot her in the head? But isn't he using the face for masks? And isn't he using the skulls for, like, balls and stuff? Why would he risk, like, damaging the head?
had tortured these women at all, and their deaths were quick
Feels
with a
weird.
bullet for each. And unlike many serial killers, Ed did not seem to derive any sort of
he's
pleasure
just shooting
from
people.
killing
Fair enough.
itself. Rather, it was what he did with the bodies after death that fulfilled his warped desires. In fact, later psychiatric evaluations noted that Ed's goal wasn't to cause suffering, but to obtain bodies to satisfy his obsession. And this is a key distinction in understanding Gein's psychology. Moreover, one doctor's report mentioned that Ed felt a sense of comfort being in the presence of these gruesome trophies, as if they were tangible reminders of his dear mother. And the evidence also confirmed Ed's methodical approach to his grisly craft.
Yeah,
the existence
he's like,
of so many body parts turned into
his brain didn't function
household
properly, pretty
items
much.
was shocking.
That's what
to
I'm
say the
getting from
least.
this.
But those rooms that
So no
were
wonder he didn't really,
Augusta's
like,
remained
care.
pristine
It was
under a
calm about
thick
talking
layer
about
of
it.
dust, which corroborated Ed's statement that he left those areas untouched after her death. And one of the final steps in the investigation was determining if Ed Gein was fit to stand trial. The sheer bizarreness of the crimes immediately raised questions about his mental state.
Yeah, he's definitely crazy.
Was this a sane man who had simply hidden his evil well, or a just very disturbed individual who was lost in his delusion? And the evidence, especially the woman's suit, hinted strongly at profound mental illness or psychosis. So part of the evidence collection extended beyond physical artifacts into psychological evaluation. And in the weeks following his arrest, Ed was examined by doctors to assess his competency and sanity, which would be crucial in the legal proceedings. And the diligent work of the police in preserving evidence and Ed's own unhesitant confessions
his house burn
little
down?
doubt about the extent of his deeds.
What?
By early
What?
1958, the focus was shifting from what Ed Gein had done, now horrifically clear, to why he had done it.
Also
and how the
hunting the
justice
Reggies.
system should deal with someone who
This is the last
had
one I need, and then I need to
effectively
restart
become a
and do
living legend of
Aleki.
madness. So within days after his
But-
arrest and many
I
confessions,
don't know. It's kind
he
of
was formally
annoying. It's
charged
kind
with
of long.
one count of first-degree murder for Bernice Warden's death.
Like, g'day.
And the murder of Mary Hogan, while acknowledged, was put
Resam?
aside initially
Is that how you say your
as
name?
the Warden case alone was enough to proceed. So on November 21st,
We're also watching Ed Gein.
1957, Ed Gein appeared in Washara County Court for his arraignment. And Gein stood before the judge, and his
He's a
attorney
bit,
entered a plea of
he's a
not
bit crazy.
guilty by
Just a
reason
bit.
of insanity. And this plea was not surprising, because given the nature of his crimes, the defense's strategy was clearly going to be that Ed was insane and not criminally
I mean,
responsible.
it could be insane.
And in support of this,
But I
doctors had
don't-
already begun evaluating
I don't know if
Ed,
he's fully
and he would
insane.
undergo a psychiatric
Or is he
assessment
lucky? Then
soon
I plan to
after
hunt
arrest, and the
Gigas.
initial
By the way,
diagnosis
just
was that Ed Gein
Sam
was
is
in
fine?
fact
Okay.
mentally ill, which, yeah.
No, I did.
Yeah, dude.
I think I
This-
made a
I feel
poll
like
and people
he
chose
should
Drago,
just-
so we did him
He needs
first.
to go into he needs to go see doctors. And he was
But
actually
this- yeah, this Gigas one is
preliminarily
kind of
diagnosed with
annoying.
schizophrenia. In late 1957, Gein was declared mentally
Maybe because on the
incompetent
Switch,
and
this
thus
like the
unfit
soft
for
resets.
trial.
Well,
And as a
maybe it's
result,
hard
the
reset.
judge
I don't know
ordered
what.
him committed
But the
to a
resets are
state
kind of
facility
annoying because they're
for the
long.
criminally insane. And specifically, Ed Gein was sent to Central State Hospital for the criminally insane in Waupun, Wisconsin.
Okay, so
which
they
was a
decided he's
secure
crazy.
psychiatric institution housed in what is now the Dodge Correctional Institution.
He seems so
Sorry if I
calm about
pronounced
everything.
anything wrong. And this period from 1957 to
Alright.
1968 essentially put any
5604.
criminal trial on
Would you like-
hold. And Ed Gein
That'd be
lived
mad,
in a mental
but
hospital
I got
where
my
doctors
Drago
observed him, treated
at
him,
68.
and gradually evaluated whether he could regain competence. And the public, however, was clamoring
So-
for answers and justice, which is completely
Sometimes you're lucky, sometimes you're
understandable.
not.
And many people in Plainfield
I'm currently
would
at
have loved to see
16,000
Ed Gein
encounters
tried and even
for
executed for
a
what
full
he
odds
did. But
shiny
American
in,
law has protections for the
in
mentally ill,
Pokemon
and clearly
Shield.
Ed's
So
grasp on reality was in question. And the judge's decision
sometimes
to
we're lucky,
institutionalize
sometimes
him
we're not.
rather than proceed
the
immediately
Switch
with the
feel a
trial
lot slower
indicated that
than
professionals
3DS. Yeah,
truly believed Ed Gein might not understand the charges or be able to assist in his own defense at the time. Essentially, Ed was placed in limbo. Not
it
a
was
free
definitely
man
way
by any
easier on the
means,
Switch,
but
on the
not yet
DS than the
convicted
Switch.
of murder either. So for about 10 years after his arrest, Ed Gein remained in state
In saying that though,
custody
at least they're
mental
letting
hospitals,
us shiny
during
on.
which time
Ed,
he
I guess.
underwent treatment
They
and
could have shiny
periodic
locked it.
evaluations. And by the late 1960s, doctors concluded that Ed's condition
They
had
shiny lock everything
stabilized
else.
to the point where he could participate in legal
Shame that
proceedings.
Aleki is not
In
as
other
fast.
words, he was deemed mentally competent to stand trial now.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
So
Sometimes
the
you get 'em
wheels of
quick,
justice
sometimes you don't.
turned again, and a trial date was set. So the Gein trial began on November
Like,
7th,
this thing could take,
1968, a
like,
full
30,000
11 years
encounters
after
for
his
all I know.
crimes were uncovered. And to avoid the circus of jury trial, and due to the challenges of finding an
Just depends.
impartial jury given Gein's infamy, the defense requested, and the court agreed, that the trial be conducted without a jury. And this meant Judge Robert H. Gulmar would hear the case and render the verdict himself, acting as fact finder. And the trial was a relatively quick affair, lasting just 1 week,
So glad
which
that
is
they are
crazy.
unlocked. Yeah.
And during this trial, the prosecution focused solely on the murder of Bernice Worden. And the judge and state officials
locked
had
everything
decided
else.
that trying Ed for Mary Hogan's murder or
I got
any
a
other
7,000
crimes like the grave desecrations was
there for
unnecessary
Bridges
and
deal
potentially
right before.
prohibitively expensive, given the
I got-
outcome would likely be the same.
So I got
As Judge Gulmore
Reggie
later
Steele and
wrote,
Reggie Rock
due to
in
cost
Auras
consideration, Gein was tried
years
for
ago.
only one murder,
So I only had to
that
do
of Mrs. Worden, even though
Reg
he had
Ice,
in essence confessed to Hogan's killing as well.
and we
The
did that
evidence
before
presented was
this. I don't
overwhelming
remember.
and
I don't remember
uncontested
how
by
many.
the defense in terms of fact. And Gein's own statements and the forensic
It's on my
evidence all
channel.
made it
I did it all on my
absolutely
channel, so,
clear
like-
that Ed had killed Bernice Worden. And one psychiatrist
same playlist
testified
as
about an
this.
interview with Gein in which Ed
But I think it was in the
described
thousands
shooting.
somewhere.
And Ed claimed he hadn't planned to kill Bernice and that he couldn't remember if it was intentional or not. And he said he was examining a rifle on the wall in her store. It had a bullet in it, and the gun went off, shooting Bernice before he realized what he was doing.
Yeah, okay.
And he then said he couldn't remember anything else that morning. And the story was possibly an attempt by Ed to rationalize his
It's
actions,
just had a gun
but it
there
didn't change
with a
the
bullet
end
in it.
result. And he clearly
Just
did
all
go on
happened.
to
It was
butcher
coincidence.
the body, which is not
Okay,
something one
yeah.
does in a daze if they're sane.
I don't remember
But
how
such
many I did.
details were more relevant to the insanity
To be honest,
determination than the
earlier
guilt
on the stream,
determination.
I was curious
And
on how
November
long it took me to
14th,
get Drago.
1968, Judge Gulmore
So I went
delivered
back
his
and looked.
verdict,
That's why I
and
know
found
it's
Ed
68.
Gein guilty of first-degree murder in the death of Bernice Worden. However, the trial was split into two
Did he get the
parts.
death penalty?
One
Because,
for
like,
guilt and one for sanity.
this is back when the death penalty
Having
was
found
a
him
thing,
guilty of
right?
the act, the court then had to decide whether Ed was legally
There we
sane
go.
or
Okay, hoorah.
insane at the time
Have
of
fun.
the crime. And in a second proceeding focused on mental health, doctors from
Hope you
both
get
the
the shiny
state
soon.
and defense testified to Ed's mental condition. And after hearing the psychiatric opinions, Judge
You have better
Gulmore
luck than
ruled
I
that
do.
Ed Gein was not guilty by reason of insanity. So in practical terms, this meant Ed
Wait.
would not go to prison, but would instead be committed to a secure mental hospital like he was in for the
Okay.
past 11 years
Yeah.
already. Essentially, for life, given the severity of his crimes and the
So he's not getting
unlikelihood
put to
of
death. He's
any
just going
cure.
crazy.
So, Ed Gein was ordered
chucked
to
in the
be
crazy bin.
returned to Central State Hospital for the criminally insane, where he would remain indefinitely. And Judge Gulmore's conclusion was that Gein was insane and could not be held fully responsible for his actions under law. And Dr. Edward Kelleher, head of Chicago's
how that
Municipal
works, eh?
Court Psychiatric Institute, labeled Gein as schizophrenic of an unusual sort, and he claimed his case was
Oh, he's
unparalleled in
schizophrenic.
modern history. But regardless of specific diagnosis, all experts agreed Ed was profoundly mentally ill.
Oh,
And
yeah,
the legal
sure.
standard for insanity in Wisconsin at
Well,
the
he's so
time
calm about
asked
everything.
whether the defendant lacked substantial capacity to appreciate the wrongfulness of his conduct or conform his conduct to the law. And in Gein's case, the consensus was that he met the standard, and he was unable to fully comprehend or control his bizarre compulsions. And because Ed Gein was only tried for Bernice Worden's murder, that is the only murder conviction on his record, technically. And Mary Hogan's murder was acknowledged but never adjudicated, unfortunately. However, in the public mind and historical record, Ed Gein is unequivocally considered responsible for Hogan's death as
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
And
Is-
Ed
so
did admit it
are
on
some
multiple
schizophrenics just, like,
occasions, as
not
mentioned. And so,
aggressive?
with the
Like-
banging of the gavel, the criminal proceedings
Because I thought
against
that
Ed
they were
Gein
all supposed to be
concluded.
like,
And there was no
when they have
dramatic
this,
jury sentencing
like,
or
schizophrenic
death penalty,
moments,
just a
they're all like
quiet
crazy,
end.
like
and Ed
aggressive.
was just to vanish into the halls of a mental institution
What if there's
to
any
live out
that
his
aren't?
days under psychiatric care. And the people of Plainfield likely felt a mixture of relief and frustration. Relief that Gein would never roam free again, and frustration that the trial was so short and that he wasn't punished in a more retributive way. Yet, practically, Ed Gein's
well, he's in a
fate
crazy
was
bin.
sealed.
I think they're
He
not
would
that
spend the rest of
great
his life
to be in.
confined,
So
and the small farming community he terrorized could begin the slow process of healing and trying to forget the name Ed Gein, though the wider world would not let that memory fade. So after being declared unfit for trial in 1957, Ed Gein was committed to Central
He'd be
State
dead now,
Hospital
right?
for the criminally insane in Waupun, Wisconsin. Sorry if I said that wrong. And he arrived there as one of the most notorious patients in the country. But behind the walls of the institution, Ed quickly faded into anonymity in a sense. And astonishingly, staff and doctors found Ed Gein to be a model patient during his years at Central State. And the man who had
because
once
he's just
upholstered chairs with human skin now spent his days in a structured
Seems
psychiatric
like he just doesn't care
environment
about
and
anything,
apparently
right?
adapted with ease. And according to Harold Schechter, author of Deviant, Gein was blissful and calm in the hospital. And he never needed tranquilizers or special restraints to keep him in line. And in group therapy and daily routines, Ed was cooperative and polite. And he even got along well with other patients, causing no disruptions. And this compliant behavior
But he
earned
was
him a
like
reputation
this-
among the staff as a practically amiable inmate.
He was
And
like
it
that before,
seems
though,
that in a
right?
twisted way, Ed actually felt at home in this institution, which makes sense with the way he grew
But he
up.
was like that
And a
before. That's
forensic
why he got that
psychiatrist later
reputation of just being
theorized
like
why, saying Gein had grown up
calm
under
and
a
nice and,
domineering
like-
authoritarian mother, Augusta. So living in a strict,
He got that
regimented
reputation
hospital
outside
with
of
clear
the-
rules and authority
as
figures
well.
may have felt comfortingly familiar to him, which just makes total sense to me. Essentially, the loss of freedom and choice might have been a relief to Ed, and he was back in an environment where he was told what to do at all times, echoing his childhood. And Dr. Gail Saltz, a psychiatrist who reviewed Gein's case, pointed out that someone like Ed, raised in an oppressive home, might actually thrive under similar conditions as an adult because it's what he's used to. And that appears to have been the case.
Yeah.
And nurses and aides noted that the only thing unsettling about Ed's presence was his habit of staring silently at female staff with a blank, intense gaze.
Okay.
No thanks. And
Yeah,
he would watch
Jesus.
the nurses in a way that made them very uncomfortable, perhaps an echo of his old obsessions. And doctors couldn't be sure if his stare indicated romantic thoughts, violent urges, or just a disassociative state of daydreaming. And we all know what he does when he daydreams.
But he didn't.
And some observed it as
He didn't
a
do anything,
nobody's
though.
home look, possibly suggesting Ed would sometimes detach from
Right.
reality, a phenomenon consistent with certain
'Cause,
mental
like, he-
illnesses or trauma responses.
You just said before that he never
Despite
got like
these eerie
tranked or
staring
anything.
episodes, he remained non-violent and passive
Yeah.
in the hospital setting.
So at least he didn't
And
do
during
anything
his
about
time
it.
in Central State,
Even if he was
it's
having
likely
those thoughts.
Gein was periodically reevaluated to see if his mental state had improved. And by the mid-1960s, doctors found him stable enough that he could potentially participate in legal proceedings. And this led to 1968 competency ruling
what?
and trial we already covered. And notably, even after being found not guilty by reason of insanity in 1968, Ed was not released, and he was simply sent back to the institutional care, as the verdict stipulates an indefinite commitment rather than freedom. So in 1978, Ed
Good.
Gein was moved to the Mendota Mental Health Institute in Madison, Wisconsin.
Oop.
And at Mendota, Ed spent the last several years of his life. And he was about 72 when he transferred there, an elderly man by any standard. And reports from Mendota indicated Ed's quiet life continued
Wait.
much as before.
Right, he lived
And
so
he was
long.
a low
What?
maintenance patient who caused no trouble at all with the staff. And the truth is,
He
Ed
grew-
Gein in his 70s seemed more like a
Yeah, he grew
benign,
so old.
grandfatherly figure than the ghoulish grave robber of his youth. However, not everyone forgot his true
Wasn't he, like,
identity.
in his late
Some
30s?
staff members
I
who
wouldn't
had
call it
seen the
youth.
case file or remembered the news had understandable wariness around him. And Ed's doctor noted that while he was socially appropriate most of the time, he had essentially no insight into the severity of his own crimes. And Ed could discuss what he'd done in a flat, factual way, but never truly grasped the moral enormity. So Ed Gein lived out 27 years in captivity after his arrest. And as he entered his late 70s, his health declined severely. And on July 26, 1984,
What'd he die
Ed
of?
Gein died at the age of 77 due to respiratory failure, complicated by lung cancer. And he took his
Oh,
last
lung cancer.
breath in the Mendota Mental Health Institute, ending the life of one of America's most notorious criminals. And in death, as in life, Ed remained a figure of fascination and revulsion. And though by then the world had moved on to other horrors
Did she
and other stories,
Bring up
the
the
question arose,
Netflix thing.
what to do with Ed Gein's body. And in a final poetic turn, Ed Gein was buried back in Plainfield, in the same cemetery where he had stolen so many bodies years before. And specifically, Ed was interred in the Gein family plot beside his mother, Augusta, and his brother, Henry, and his father, George. And it's a weird thought that Ed's remains now lie in the hollowed ground he once desecrated.
Yeah, it's a bit weird.
At least. And at his burial, there was no publicized funeral, and he was just.
It's also strange to me that he didn't just
to avoid any sort of
dig up his mother.
And Ed's grave itself became
dug
a
up
target
other
of
women.
vandalism over the years as tourists and treasure hunters chipped off pieces of his tombstone for souvenirs. And it got so bad that in 2000, Ed Gein's headstone was stolen completely from Plainfield Cemetery.
What?
And the missing tombstone was later recovered by police near Seattle in 2001, which is kind of crazy. And after that, the gravestone was placed in storage to prevent any further incident. And today, Ed Gein's grave is unmarked, a patch of earth next to his mother's marker, but locals know the spot. And occasionally, curious visitors still find their way to the Gein family plot, though
Bro,
the
people are
cemetery
so
doesn't
weird.
advertise it, obviously. And in death, perhaps the spirits of those who wronged found some peace, knowing that Ed Gein could never harm another soul. In Plainfield, the little town that endured the unimaginable,
Those people probably
breathed a sigh of relief that the butcher
like saying like, "Oh, bro, he's crazy. He did all this
good.
crazy stuff."
Yet,
then
even as Ed
you go and
Gein
like
was
steal his
lowered into the
tombstone.
ground, his story was already taking
You're
on
also
life of
crazy.
its own in American lore and pop culture, ensuring that his name would never be forgotten, for better or for worse. And the gruesome tale of Ed Gein horrified 1950s America, but it also captivated the imagination of writers and filmmakers, as we know. And Gein's crimes directly inspired some of the most iconic characters in horror fiction. And mere years after Gein's 1957 arrest, writer Robert Bloch was living just 35 miles away from Plainfield and followed the local
looks like
news
that guy
reports.
from The
And
Simpsons.
In 1959, he published a novel called Psycho, featuring a disturbed murderer named Norman Bates. And Bates, a mild-mannered guy with a dead mother complex and a penchant for dressing in her clothes, was heavily inspired by Gein. And Bloch took creative liberties. His character was younger and more explicitly schizophrenic. But the core idea of this mother-obsessed killer living in a rural isolation came straight from the Gein case. And Alfred Hitchcock famously adapted Psycho into a classic 1960 film of the same name. And on screen, Norman Bates, played by Anthony Perkins, became a chilling embodiment of Ed Gein archetype. And outwardly shy and polite, but harboring deadly secrets in the fruit
What about the Bates
cellar,
Motel? Did she bring that
including the
up?
preserved corpse of his own mother. And while Psycho toned down the gore, no skin suits in that story, the psychological profile was pure Gein. And the cultural impact was huge. And Psycho shocked audiences and essentially gave birth to a modern slasher genre, cementing Norman Bates and, by extension, Ed Gein into pop culture. And a little over a decade later, another horror classic drew from Gein's grisly repertoire. And that was Leatherface in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre in 1974. It's basically Ed Gein turned up to 11, because in the film, a family of backwoods killers in rural Texas slaughters trespassers. And the hulking, mute Leatherface character wears a mask made of human skin and decorates his home with furniture made from bones and body parts.
His name was
all straight from the
Leatherface.
catalog of Gein's real crimes. And the movie's director, Tobe Hooper, cited Gein as an influence, and audiences immediately recognized the parallels. And Leatherface's grisly crafts and cannibalistic household take Ed's morbid DIY tendencies to a fictional extreme. And the Texas Chainsaw Massacre became a cult hit and made the idea of a house filled with human remains a staple horror scenario, and a direct legacy of Gein's own House of Horrors.
So she's going in order, so eventually she might mention Bates Motel, right?
Is Buffalo Bill in Thomas Harris's novel The Silence of the Lambs. One of my favorites, to be honest, which came out in 1988, and in 1991 it had a film adaptation. In Buffalo Bill is a serial killer who murders women. It's just a giant fictionalized retelling of Ed Gein's post-mortem activities.
I watched one of the Hannibal Lecter
Harris,
movies.
a meticulous researcher of
Don't remember
real
which one.
crime cases, amalgamated several murderers to create Buffalo Bill. But Ed Gein's influence is unmistakable. And Buffalo Bill's twisted goal of transforming himself into a woman by wearing his victim's skin is lifted directly from Gein's known goal of becoming his mother. And this film would go on to win Academy Awards and introduced millions to a character whose DNA can be traced back to Plainfield's Ghoul. And many other horror movie villains and stories have echoes
this is just a
of
movie
Ed
called
Gein.
Ed Gein.
But beyond inspiring fictional characters, Ed Gein's story has been retold directly in various forms of media. And true crime books were among the first before any sort of movies.
Oh, she's not going to
He's had
mention
countless
Bates Motel?
biographical movies as well. And even in more recent years, on Netflix, he's mentioned multiple times in one of the greatest shows ever that I'm so upset got canceled, Mindhunter. And Gein's case is often used in forensic psychology discussions about the development of serial killers. And even though Gein technically isn't a serial killer by body count, because he murdered 2 people only, allegedly, his psychology and methods are so extreme that he's grouped with
Maybe I need
the
to watch
popular
Mindhunter.
imagination. And Ed Gein is also the focus of the upcoming season of Netflix's Monster Show, releasing October 3rd.
Okay, so
And the
she did this
series
before
has
this
been
came
a
out.
hit in past, featuring notable monsters like Jeffrey Dahmer, which, if you watch my Dahmer video, we know how I feel about that. So with this show coming up, I think the day this video comes out, or very close to it, I'm nervous to watch it, because I
watched the first episode of
don't
Dahmer.
like the romanticizing of serial killers.
I was like,
I think I'll
I don't
watch
like
it,
this.
but I'm, with a grain of salt.
But I had already
Because Hollywood
watched
just loves
like
to make everything look
doco
10
stuff
times more
about Dahmer
dramatic,
and that.
although this is quite a dramatic case, or they make the audience feel
So I don't know.
sympathy for
I prefer
a
watching videos
literal
like this.
monster, but in this case specifically, and
Over,
I feel like it is like the only case I can think of
like Dahmer
with
and
his
that.
childhood and everything, and this is a case of like almost pure nurture. I think there is some nature in there, but his mother made him into a monster. That's what the show is called. And I have empathy for child Ed Gein, but as an adult, I mean, I don't know. He also got diagnosed with schizophrenia, which is in fact nature. I'm scared to watch the show because they usually butcher it. But now you have all the facts, so if you do watch the show, you can be as critical as you want to be, because now you're an Ed Gein expert. But if you guys really want me to watch the show and you want some sort of deep dive on the show and whether it's good or bad or what it is accurate in or not accurate in, I can totally do that. Maybe that could be interesting, actually. So let me know down in the comments.
Do it.
Type Ed Gein show review.
Do it.
And then I'll know. But that is the case of Ed Gein. That is the deep dive. It was a long one. Again, heart always goes out to the victims and their families. Absolutely.
It is an hour and a half.
Horrific way to have your life ended, and even afterlife to be treated like just today's piece of shit,
crazy,
basically.
bro.
But if you have any other cases you want me to deep dive into, let me know
mask.
down below. I always read the comments. And until then, I will see you next time, okay? Stay safe.
Okay. And then I need to unmute the capture card. There we go. Boom. I'm just gonna go to 600 encounters, and then I think I'll be in the stream. Because I realized last week we did like super long streams. Not super long, but we did a couple that were really long. And it destroyed my throat. Like, especially like Friday's stream. Bro, it killed my throat. And it took like, I think it was like Saturday, my throat was still rough. It was like yesterday, I was like, okay, my throat's a little better now. So yeah, I don't know if we'll be doing super long streams like that again. Maybe, depends. Yeah, it depends. I might end up streaming long for the Pokemon streams. I don't know yet. It's like when I really, really like something. That's how that's what ends up happening. I end up just wanting to like play it like non-stop. Bro, I fell in love with that Digimon game. I think that's my favorite game that's come out this year. Like out of all the games that have come out this year, I think that's my favorite. Like what else came out? I don't even know. Did Veilguard come out this year or was that last year? Because yeah, if that was one of the games that came out this year, then yeah, that's doo-doo. Oh, bro, my nose. I sneezed earlier and like... Shut up, truck. Now my nose is all like blocked. They forgot to give me in the shopping I bought some like this Vicks nose thing. Helps unblock your nose. They like fucked up and didn't give it to us, so hoping this week they actually fucking give us my nose thing. We're definitely gonna be doing this, I think, until ZAR comes out. So today's Monday, so Tuesday, Wednesday, because Thursday ZAR comes out. If ZAR still isn't out on Thursday, which it is possible, because like sometimes they like don't release things, they try to release things worldwide, so they wait for America, right? So maybe, you know, I might not be playing it till Friday, but if I can play it on Thursday, I will. But yeah, I think we'll just do this. Or maybe like, what are the, hold on, I think I have it up, right? Yeah, no I don't. We have the diamond shining lock, which we just started, which I think, how many encounters are we at for that? We're at 600 for that. Like, bro, oh my god, I forgot how loud that was. Jesus. Yeah, we're at 600 encounters for diamond. Maybe we could do that? That's the penguin, right? Might do a poll. Set up a poll at the end of stream. See what you guys want. Or maybe we do like Walking Dead or something. Because I need to do that too. I don't remember what other games we're gonna play. We got Origins. We could play that. Assassin's Creed. Because I don't know if like, I feel like if I play Pokemon up to the release of the new Pokemon, I don't know. I feel like I might burn you guys out on Pokemon. Because when Zar comes out, I'm gonna play the shit out of it. Same thing with like what happened with Digimon, right? Digimon came out, I played the crap out of it. Bro, how do people like listen to this music? Because like I've turned the music on, left the music on for you guys, but like I can't stand it. Drives me nuts. Like short little bursts, like what we're getting here, isn't as bad, but like to play the entire game and have to listen to music while I'm like trying to do other things, like battle in that. I don't know. I've been saying that. I think I've said this before. Like I grew up with the Game Boy. So like I always had to have the sound off because you have to play it in like lighted areas, like lit areas, right? So you'd always play it in the lounge room where the light was on or the TV was on, so you could see the screen. And you'd be playing around people, so you couldn't have the sound on because it would annoy them while they're trying to watch TV or whatever. I just got used to playing them with no sound. I don't know. I get used to playing a lot of games with no sound. Like, I play Elden Ring with no sound a lot. And then I watch, what did I watch? I think it was Little Aggie. I think it was. Or Chris. Starro Chris. I watched one of them, and they were doing like a Elden Ring run, and the sound bugged out, and they had no sound, and they like started like carrying on about how they had no sound. And I was like, but to me, I was like, I always play this with no sound, so like, I don't know, but I guess it makes sense because when you do play with sound, you like attacks have like noises, like sound effects, so I guess it makes sense. I don't know. I'm probably weird. Because I think that it like gets stuck in your brain. I will say though, the Dark Souls 3 music was pretty dope. Do I have a Regice? I don't think I have a Regice that I can like swap over to this game. So I think I'm stuck waiting until I'm done. 10 more encounters. I will end stream. Bro, it rained this morning. It looks like it might rain again, but like, there's no wind, and the rain just made it hot. It's like muggy now. Kind of sucks. I think I just realized why I started the shield shiny look. I think I started that because I was like, when I get to the end of that, I'll then hunt shiny Regieleki. But it's taking so long that I don't think I will ever get to shiny Regieleki. Yeah? Oh. Come on, be blue, bro. You know you want to be blue. Do it. Do it. Uh, 93. This is a weird way to like... They couldn't have like given him a temple? Like they gave the other ones temples. Like Regirock, Reggie Steel, and Reggie Ice, or Regice, all have temples. And then Regidrago / Aleki has their own temple. You couldn't have given Regigigas a temple? He's like the boss of them. I guess then maybe they wanted it to be like a spectacle or something? Maybe? Be blue, bro. Just do it. You know you want to. At least let me finish off one of these shiny hunts. You know what? Fuck it. We're going to rotate between them. We're going to do this, and then tomorrow we're going to do Shaman Hunt. And then Wednesday we're going to go back to this. I'm going to do that. I'm going to rotate between these hunts. Until I finally get one of them. Because the minute I get this guy, that's it, right? This hunt's done. I can move on. And it's the same thing with Shaman. The minute Shaman's done, that's it. I can move on. Trying to like knock off things that I started. Because I do want, there's new things I want to start. Like I want to play through, I just bought Mafia Trilogy because it was only $20. And I got all 3 of the definitive editions for $20. So I want to play through them. I want to play through Far Cry Primal now. I want to, like, there's a bunch of things I want to start. But I need to, like, knock off some of these games I've started. Like, we got rid of the perfume only run. We got through that. I finished Digimon as quick as I fucking got it. Do I still have the... Where is it? Yeah, I do. Okay, so the games we've got that we need to finish is Dragon Age Origins, The Walking Dead. Oh, Shin Megami Tensei. Yeah, I forgot about you. I wouldn't mind playing you. Assassin's Creed Origins, and then Baldur's Gate 3 with Benny. Then the Pokemon games, we've got Legends Arceus. I want to 100% the Pokédex. This hunt, Shaman Hunt, Shield Shiny Lock, and Diamond Shiny Lock. They're the things we've started. So the Shield and Diamond Shiny Lock, we're just not going to even look at them. Right? Because they're just going to take forever, especially the Shield one. At this rate, Shield one's going to take fucking 20 years. The rate it's going. But we could probably knock off the Shaman and this Reggie hunt, maybe. If we get lucky. And then the Legends is like, that's just going to be a thing we come back to here and there. Because that's going to take forever. Like, some of the things I have to do is, like, stupid. For that. It's like, hey, get this thing to jump out of a tree, and but then you have to kill it with flying moves. But then it's also, hey, get this thing to jump out of a tree and then catch it. It's like, motherfucker. And then they're like rare too. The one I'm talking about is Cherubi. I think it's Cherubi. Because the thing is, one tree Cherubi can jump out of. And you need to kill and catch them. It's like, he's just gonna take forever. And then, like, I didn't realize, like, what's he called? Silcoon? Is that what he's called? Cascoon? Cascoon. I think it was, no, it was Silcoon or Cascoon, one of them two. But I didn't realize they were gonna suck. Like, they sucked. Because I had to catch some, and I had to kill some, I think. Same. And they just don't want to spawn. Yeah, the legend one's gonna take forever. Ugh, okay. We're leaving this here for today. Tomorrow you know what? Let's do a poll. I'll do a poll. I'm doing it. I haven't done a poll in a while. Posts, image poll. Stream. So many of these are just called stream. It's funny. Okay, we'll do this. Go Reggie. And then go here. We'll go where? Oh shit. I just realized. Where did I put the thumbnail for Shaman? Is it in here? No. Is it in here? No. Fuck. Is it in here? Found it. I found it. Never mind. I found it. I'm a genius. Never mind. Shaman post. There you go. I did a poll for you guys. Pick what you want me to stream tomorrow. Also like it, I guess. I don't know. Copy that. And I'll post it in the chat for you guys. And I think I have to go over to Kick, right? Post it in the Kick one. For some reason it doesn't work. There you go. Go vote on that. That's tomorrow's stream. But I'm going to leave this here. How long were we streaming for? Oh, 3 hours. That's not bad. Okay. If you guys enjoyed today's stream, leave a like. If you want to see more, subscribe. But, till next time. Hooroo.